He was saying like, yeah, they meditate, they draw out all their thoughts, they do this and that, and they can do it for 4 days. And as soon as he sits down and closes his eyes, guitar is like, let's talk, let's talk about
I knew you'd return.
I wish
I told him that. Like, will you shut up?
It was so. She was just so bad.
I think there was a similar moment in the show where she was kind of. Well, Super Agile Bros family. It's another episode. You already know what it is. It's your boy Bradston on the mic with the brothers themselves. You already know. We got the boy Kyle. Kyle, tell the people hello. Hello.
How many hellos with that?
Hello,
people.
Yes. And of course, we got the brother himself, the Steve. What's happening, Steve? What's happening with your brother?
Annyeong.
Annyeong. Shouldn't it be Annyeong? Oh, how would you pronounce it?
Annyeong.
Annyeong. There you go. I see you. You're now adapting correctly.
That's right.
Your jokes to the beginning to your intro. I like it. So for those who are listening in the future, because we're in the past, if you're
in
listening
the future's future,
in the future's past, this is a very special episode because this is our first ever live recording of a Super Agile Bros podcast. We got the people in the building listening live, for better or for worse. Yeah.
Live studio audience.
Usually what we do is Brad will record, and then Kyle and I will get the recording, and we just react to what he's saying. And we have to fill in the blank space. Yes. When he's just not talking.
Yes.
It's very difficult.
We never do it in real time. It's kind of like a asynchronous kind of situation. So it's difficult, but this is going to be fun. We might do this right. And
we're extremely talented.
Gifted, some would say. Gifted. One thing that's really cool about this podcast, you got to think about this. This is like the ultimate moment, because not only is this our like first live podcast, like live recording, but we're also covering the topic that everybody's looking forward to. The one thing that we should have covered months ago. We should have covered this topic before we even knew that we had this podcast.
Episode 0, huh?
Yeah.
Episode
should have been
0.
Episode -1.
This is episode -1, y'all.
I'm gonna erase all the other podcasts. This will be the only one.
This is retroactively. So for those who don't know what that means, I've been threatening the crew for a while that we were gonna do a podcast on a movie that was made. I almost added a superlative, but I can't do it. Which is The Last Airbender. So for those who are unfamiliar with The Last Airbender movie is based off of the critically acclaimed blockbuster gangster cartoon series Avatar: The Last Airbender. Mm-hmm. And I guess
anime light series.
Anime light series, yes. Thank you, Kyle.
That's fair. Yeah,
that's very fair. Very, very good.
We've discussed this.
And if they had decided to go with the whole name Avatar: The Last Airbender, it would have been The Avatar: The Last Airbender.
The Last Airbender.
The Last Airbender, because this movie. Okay, so
Bradston, what joke was that? What are you talking about?
Okay. So I have a lot to say, because you know what my whole goal is? I'm gonna be super 100% honest. I'm gonna be real with the people. My goal is to be an apologist for this movie.
I knew it.
You're gonna stand in the gap for this
I was
movie?
gonna stand in the gap for every person whose childhood was like positively impacted by this movie. But after seeing this movie a second time, I don't know if I could do it.
Here, I'll help you out.
Your heart has changed.
Don't think of it as being an apologist for the movie. Think of it as taking the route that would irritate me the most.
I mean, it'll come, but like my whole goal is to be like, this movie is solid. Like, it is a great movie. Everybody's just got tainted eye. Okay, so before we get into it, let's do two things. So we're gonna start with this. I want to get y'all's review in two different aspects. All right, y'all ready?
Give it a rating, Steve.
All right, you can rate it. You don't have to rate it, but here's the goal. The first rating or review will be based on if you imagine you were just rating a movie. You're not an Avatar: The Last Airbender fan. You're just a person who saw a movie. Okay, so that'll be our first review, and then our second will be based off us being actual fans of the show. Y'all dig? Y'all dig? Okay.
So is like the first half of the episode gonna be we're not fans of the show?
No, just in this segment right now.
Okay.
We're gonna do this, and then I'd like us to talk about the movie. Everything's on the table. I want to read some quotes from the movie because
you wrote down quotes too.
Yeah, well, I was gonna do that, and I said it's probably better for me just to find like the official quotes because I'm terrible with quotes. And I was laughing before this podcast even started because I was like, bro, seeing this in writing. Like, some of this I can't believe somebody wrote down.
Somebody wrote this.
Oh, the script.
I actually wrote down, I have like the messiest scrawled looking words on my notebook right now because I like stopped the movie. We got to the first, I think it was the first line after like the intro. Mm-hmm. And I paused it and I had to go get a notebook because I'm like, I can't watch this without
I need to take notes.
I'm going to forget all the stupidity.
Yeah, I debated taking notes. I said, no, I need to be fully immersed in this moment. Like,
yeah, it was hard.
I need to watch it. So, Kyle,
I wasn't going to take notes because I didn't want to remember anything.
No worries.
Well, that's the best thing about taking notes is you don't remember anything because you're not focused on the movie, and then you can burn the notes after.
No, I think one thing to note is that trauma doesn't go away, so it doesn't matter, Kyle, that you didn't write it down. Like you're gonna have to deal with this. And
I'm irreversibly damaged just because I sat through the movie.
That's actually a theme of the movie. That's what Ong taught us. Trauma doesn't go away.
This movie did not have any lessons. Well, don't you pretend like it did.
I learned things. I have many lessons learned after watching this. It didn't come directly to the movie. All right, so cool. Let's do this. Let's do the review as people who've, just movie people, and then we'll go in as fans. So who wants to start it out? Who wants to get there?
I can start.
All right, go for it, Steve.
All right, this movie sucked. As a movie. All right. Without any knowledge of the show, it felt like, wow, they skipped a lot of stuff. The pacing was so bonkers because they try to do so much in so little time. One of the weird things to me was they apparently started a rebellion in the Earth Kingdom, but we never see any like indication of how that went or what happened afterwards. Nothing. It really felt like that segment of the movie just didn't matter. Like everything in the Earth Kingdom, none of it mattered. The acting was, I would say, poor all around. The writing was especially cringy. It felt like, it was just weird. It was like, it was like they were in a play or something. It was very strange. And Appa looked kind of creepy. That's my short take.
Okay. Kyle, what about you?
Yeah. I was hoping, I really wanted Appa, because he's massive in the show, right? But he's cute. Mm-hmm. He was not cute in this movie. Mm-hmm. It's very disappointing. But I agree with a lot of those points. The pacing was, just from a fundamental screenplay perspective, horrendous. And I think it's partially because of what you said, Steve, is the lines that the delivery was stilted. There were all these spaces in between. Mm-hmm. And it was packaged as an action movie because everybody has superpowers, right? Mm-hmm. But then there was just so much talking. And then when nobody was talking, they were just looking at each other. And I think they were supposed to be emoting, but they weren't. And like you said, they would skip over stuff and hint that stuff happened. And time passed, but it was never clear. They would just jump around from locations. It was a complete mess. Just from removing the story that I know it was supposed to emulate. It didn't tell a good story on its own, in my opinion. There was nothing to latch on to. Super hard to follow, and then I didn't know who to root for.
Obviously, it's the good guys. Jorge.
Who was the good guys? I'm still not certain.
Yeah, Katara was extremely unlikable.
Yeah.
For most of the movie, and she was the one narrating it.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Right.
I something I meant to mention in my short take just now was something that really bothered me was they would have these scenes that just ended. And I felt like it ended right before something meaningful might have been said. Yeah. Or it ended and I'm like, what was the point of any of it? Right. Exactly. It's super weird.
Yeah. I mean, look, man. Like, so I try my best to step away from my bias, right? And to be very honest, okay. So one, I agree with you guys. The writing was super stilted. You know what it felt like? It felt like it was the first draft of the script. Like they wrote it like, hey, here is what everybody is going to say. But then it's like you have your next level where they go back and they think about the different characters. How would they deliver it? What's the best way to say it? Da-da-da-da. But it was like, no, this is just like bullet points. Like I am going to say, I am angry right now. You know, like it would like, you know, like just the writing was terrible. And it definitely felt like the script was written under duress. You know, it's just like, you
got a gun to someone's head.
Yeah, like a gun to their head, or like, you better get this done in a week, fool, or everybody dies. I'll murderize your whole family. You know, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I really feel like the timing was bad. Like, I feel like they just didn't give it this just due. But that being said, I was going back. I'm a martial arts fan. Not I don't even mean like MMA stuff, right? Like I mean like I've loved kung fu movies for a very long time. And okay, so there's one scene that's completely horrible from a purely cinematic standpoint, which is
I know exactly what you're talking about immediately.
I can think of several.
Is the Earthbender scene.
Yeah.
That's Earthbending. And we'll get into it. But I do want to say that there are moments that I think they did a really good job with the choreography for the martial arts. Like, there's moments where I actually felt like Anyway,
just call him Ong. That's what the movie calls him.
Okay, Ong really felt very light. Like there's a moment where he did that, and he did that thing. Well, I'm not comparing it to the show, but he did some things where I was like, yo, like this is a little kid fighting somebody who's stronger than him, you know? And there were scenes with the different benders, which I thought were cool. Like, once again, not comparing it to the show, but more just like, oh, it was cool. And my favorite action sequence was the blue, what was it called? The
Blue Spirit?
The Blue Spirit saving Ong. Not
because it's a cool action sequence.
Like, it's a pretty cool action sequence, and I think if you just cut that out, like minus like Ong's weird like air battle thing where he was just flipping those things around and nobody was approaching him. Like
yes, that was another thing. He did nothing.
Yeah, it was very strange, but I thought that sequence was really cool. So overall, like if I were to rate the movie just purely from a like movie standpoint, I'd probably give it like a 6, just because I was somewhat entertained.
6 out of 10.
Out of 10, yeah, out of 10.
6 out of 100.
There it is. More accurate.
Because I was somewhat entertained. Okay, so all right. Now that we've given,
wait. But I want to also, I'll say sure. The martial arts is a high note. Oh dang! I just lost it. Oh well, the martial arts is a high note. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So
I think that the Blue Spirit scene was the best by comparison. Like if you compare it to the rest of the movie, it was good. But if you compare that scene to a movie that has competent action,
I don't know. I might disagree with you. I feel like I've seen a lot of martial arts movies, and some of them are not very good. Yeah. But like the choreography is kind of fun. But I can see what you're saying, though.
I felt like in the scenes when Ong is running around and he's being light. It felt, maybe it's because it's an older movie, but to me that just felt like kind of corny.
Okay. It was campy, yeah.
Yeah, like like, oh, this is definitely a guy on wires, like from an old kung fu movie. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it didn't seem real at all.
Into it.
But other than that, the way, especially when he's like struggling with Zuko, and they keep going back and forth, and he grabs him and tries to get away, and he grabs him and tries like that. That felt pretty good.
Yeah, that's the scene. That's the exact scene I was tking of when he's like running.
I want to see that scene again.
He definitely.
I want to see that scene again with a laugh track.
It'd probably just play me laughing over it. I just posted a video in our Discord. It's like a 30-second thing. You can watch it on mute, but it's these earthbenders that are all coordinated together, and they're doing kind of like a coordinated martial art.
Yeah.
And then a single like small rock slowly moves across the space. And then another earthbender does a different move to launch it at a firebender.
Yes.
There was another scene that was similar. It was kind of playing while Katara is narrating, I think. And it shows Aang just like kind of fighting some firebenders. And there's a scene. It's like it's panned way back. So you see the whole like village square. And it's Aang doing some moves, and there's like air around him. And then like across the square, super far away, there's another fire soldier who's kind of just like moving, like he's trying to dodge balls or something. And then Aang does one move, and the wind catches the guy and knocks him over. And if you're watching Aang, it looks kind of cool. But if you're watching the fire soldier, it just looks so stupid.
So let's before we get deep into the movie and talk about scene to scene, moment to moment, let's give our anime light review of the Avatar
fan review.
Avatar fan review.
That's what they called him, yeah.
The Avatar. Well, no, it wasn't even consistent.
I think they did say Avatar once, and I was like, what did she just say?
It was a mistake.
No, so the general, what's his name? Not Iroh. Zhao said the Avatar. Iroh said the Avatar, and then it would switch. Everybody.
Katara said Avatar the whole time.
Yeah, she said Avatar, and of course, Aang introduced himself as Aang. So,
he did.
Sure. I mean, hey, if someone walks up to me and says, "My name is Aang,"
that's it.
I'm not going to call him Aang.
And I think, shout out to our boy Soy, who I think he said that he didn't believe. He said like, "This is not the same character. This is a different character." He's like, "This is a different person. This isn't Aang. This is Aang. This the character is not our boy Aang."
I think it's what happens when you squeeze Aang into a 2-dimensional or even like a 1-dimensional space. Like, to me, it does look like Aang, but it looks like, if Aang is my 3D friend and I see a drawing of him on a piece of paper, I'm like, well, it's flat, and you can't rotate it, and if you look at it the wrong way, it's just a line. But that resembles Aang.
We're missing a dimension. We're missing some dimensions. So okay, let's give our Avatar review. So, what do you guys feel about it as fans of Avatar: The Last Airbender watching The Last Airbender? What is your review with that context?
So now that I hear Soyrum's take that Aang isn't Aang, I kind of prefer to think of it as this is some failed attempt at making an Avatar: The Last Airbender cinematic universe.
I knew you were going to do that crap.
So, Aang see you?
An see you? Is that what you just said?
Aang see you.
Oh, I like mine better. Please continue.
But I think the casting was kind of all over the place. Some of the characters I was like, okay, that could work, and then others I was just like, wait, because I don't know, the whole thing is it's just not faithful enough to the source material. We made this comment before about Appa, but now I can say it for sure. Like even that, it's just like this. There's a spirit behind whatever you're portraying, and they completely missed it. Like the whole tone of the movie was just off. Like from the onset, it was. I couldn't understand what they were trying to do. Like, was their intent to just grab these characters and do something else? Because that's just what it felt like. It was hollow.
So I actually read some quotes by our man M Night, and he very strongly believes that he treated it right. At least he did before the movie came out. People were asking him like, "Oh, I don't know about the casting, and I don't know about this or that," and he was like, "Look, I'm a fan of the movie, like." Or sorry, I'm a fan of the show.
He's a fan of the movie he's making.
I'm not being dropped into somebody else's world. This is my world. Like I have as much right to this as any of the other fans. I'm preserving the things I love about this, and I'm bringing my own take to things. So I just found that really interesting. I'm like, what did you love about the show? What do you think you're preserving in this movie? Because it's totally different.
Yeah, I feel like. So I'm a person who's like, okay, I understand. You can't make the movie the same as the game, right? Like, I'm sorry, the game. The same with the
source material.
The source material, most of the time.
Sure.
Because, like, beat for beat, like, Lord of the Rings is, the best, almost beat for beat, from its source material. And even in that, they had to remove characters like Tom Bombadil and whatever. But anyway, so I give them a little bit of forgiveness because I understand that, like, hey, it might be hard to cast a character in a certain way because it doesn't really make sense or blah, 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 blah. But I think, like, when it came to Aang, to Katara, and then the most disrespect, to me, I felt more disrespected by this than Aang. What did they call him? Sokka?
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't even think.
Why? Like, just call him Sokka. Like, there's...
So he also has something to say about that. He says that he was trying to preserve the Asian pronunciations of these names, which I'm like, he's like, yeah, it's mispronounced in the show. He's very gung-ho about that.
That's the show. I mean, the characters like Kakarot is the carrot in Japan. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. It does. Oh, I want to preserve the so we'll call him Carrot. Like, no, that's not his name. Like, you're done. So
yeah.
I get that, and actually me and Shailene were saying like, oh, maybe that's the idea, but but at the end of the day, like, it'd be one thing if it was a comic, you know what I'm saying, or a book. Sure, that makes sense to me. But the characters have a name in the show. There's no reason to do that,
Yeah, be faithful to what people know them as not what you think it's intended to be. Because I wonder, what his source was. I mean, I guess
Well, the creators of the show were producers on the movie.
Did they have any say?
Well, okay. Actually, this is perfect that you said that. So, all right. So I was on IMDb and I was looking at some information, and I'm gonna read quote the quote of what it says because I think it's a good discussion point. All right.
Let's hear it.
So it's the creators of the show, Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian.
I'll never try to pronounce their names.
I at least this is in writing, so if it's wrong, I could feel okay. And Brian Konietzko served as executive producers and were initially supportive of the film production. However, both of them ended up being very unsatisfied with the finishing product. In a podcast interview from 2014, Konietzko revealed that A, we didn't want it to be done at all. Before anyone is attached, we didn't want it. And then B, if it was going to be done, we wanted to do it. But they weren't going to let us. C, when they attached M. Night Shyamalan, we just thought, well, this is what we've been dealt. We'll just offer help when it's asked of us. And if it's not, we'll stay out of the way. In the beginning,
was their losing hand.
In the beginning, it was a more positive, and we offered help. But then we had a big falling out. So it's clear that that M. Night Shyamalan might want to act like he really cared about this, and he might act like, but clearly, like, the creators of the show who didn't want it to happen in the first place, but said, you know what, we're gonna do this, like, felt so defeated that they were like, bump this, like, we're done. Do what you want to do.
Shame.
So that tells you enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue he probably does care about the things, or at least, I don't know, maybe not, but it's still possible that he cares a lot. But he's just so, if he cares that much, he must really just be that arrogant and into his own perspective and his own the way he sees things, that he's willing to dismiss the creators of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I get that, like, it's one thing. It's one thing if you take creative freedom and you make a great movie. It's another thing if you take that risk and it's garbage. Like, you have to own that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to own that you didn't listen to the people who created this, who, you know what I'm saying? Like, one thing that I've really appreciated about Peter Jackson with the whole Lord of the Rings, creation of all the movies, is that he heavily involved the Lord of the Rings fan club and I believe J.R.R. Tolkien's wife in the process, right?
Is it?
I believe. I might be wrong, but I recall reading
his
that
estate in some way. Probably.
Yeah, the estate or what have you. Like,
maybe it's not.
Like, it was very important that he tried his best to really evoke the emotions that were important to the people who loved the craft. He was also a lover of the craft. M. Night Shyamalan claims he appreciated the craft, but I just feel like he would have respected it. Like if when you're somebody who really loves something, like, I don't care. You don't change stuff up like that. You know what I'm saying? That's my personal opinion.
I guess that speaks to his motive too. Who the movie was going to be for while he was making it. If he just ripped the IP from the people who lovingly crafted this thing, then obviously he wasn't seeing eye to eye with whomever, I guess, is making content around this universe. That stinks.
Yeah, I heard. So while we were watching this movie, Keisha is furiously like looking up stuff. she tells me that the guy who played I keep wanting to say Rufio. He plays Rufio in Hook, but the guy who played Zuko in the animated film, apparently the creators at some point talked to him and were like, "Don't bother watching this movie. You're not gonna like it."
The movie? Like the movie at all? Snap.
He said, yeah, they told him not to watch the movie.
God.
That's not a direct quote. I'm just
more or less.
It's like a third party.
More like, wow.
Yeah.
So okay. So let's do this. Let's talk about the movie.
I didn't get to rate it as a fan.
Oh, you didn't? Oh yeah, go ahead. Go. No, you did. Oh, or maybe you didn't. Whatever. Go ahead.
No, I don't think I did. Yeah, it sucked. Same as the normal. I feel like it sucked as a movie and as a fan. They cut out so much lore. The Earth Kingdom basically didn't happen. Toph is one of the greatest characters. I mean, they're all great, but Toph is incredible, and she just didn't exist, straight up.
But she wouldn't have at this point because this was.
I don't think they got to her yet.
This is book one.
Oh, so you're right. They don't meet her till they're on the way back through there. Wait,
she was in book
I guess
2, which was Earth.
Yeah, you're right. She is in book 2. Because they're looking for her. All right, so I rescind my complaint, but they did go through the Earth Kingdom on the way to the Northern Water Tribe, and that basically just boiled down to, and we started a rebellion, and then we ran like heck. Obviously, the names are stupid. I can't believe that I'm the first to bring this up, but it was really annoying how white the Water Tribe was. Because especially in the show, they're like one of the darkest groups of people.
Yes.
But, people complain like, oh, the main cast is white and there's some people of color here and there. But it isn't just the main cast. Well, first of all, Ong, what's his name? David Noah. His name's Noah. He's, I think, actually at least half. I think he's only half white at most. He's vaguely Asian. It's hard to tell because his head is shaved. He's ambiguous. But if you see him with like hair, it's like, oh, that's an Asian kid. Anyway, everyone in the Water Tribe, there was like one woman, I think it was the grandma in one of the first scenes, who looked vaguely Inuit maybe. But everyone else was like English. It was super weird.
Wait, I was gonna say the opposite. I think that from what I was looking at, the children looked like they were of some type of Aboriginal type descent.
The children in the Water Tribe, or
in the Water Tribe, in the Water Tribe when they were trying.
Oh, I wasn't looking at the kids. I don't know, maybe, but all the adults.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Like, the Water Tribe was maybe the one that was probably the most egregious. I can see what you're saying. Like, especially when it went to the northern
Water Tribe.
Especially when it went to the Northern Water Tribe. That's when it was very clear, like, okay. But the Southern Water Tribe seemed more, lack of a better word, ethnic.
Sure. I thought they were both ultra white. Yeah, the North was insane. There's one scene where they kind of zoom. It's when they're about to go to war. The Fire Nation is on the way, and the soldiers are like prepared for battle, and it just zooms in on this guy. I don't know why. He's not a character we never seen before or after. He's just this random soldier, but it's just this kind of chubby white guy. He looks like the like neckbeard fedora meme, but in like a Water Tribe, uniform. And I'm like, what? Why? Why?
Hey man, they had to fill in some spots. They were like, yo, get some B-roll, do what we got to do. No, so
oh man.
I was gonna say, I mean, I was gonna actually say, like, one thing I did appreciate about this movie in general is that it really did feel like M. Night Shyamalan and the casting director did try to some degree have like a representation of each tribe as maybe the culture that they would represent, right? Like,
yeah, they did.
So the Water Tribe, like you said, would be kind of that Inuit, type of tribe and or culture, and then you have the Earth Kingdom, which was kind of more like, I guess you could say maybe Chinese, that type of Asian culture, and then you have the Fire Nation, which was kind of like a East.
They were Indian.
Indian.
Kind of cast Indian guys.
Not.
I always thought the Fire Nation was kind of Japanese adjacent in the cartoon.
In the show, yeah.
Yeah.
In the cartoon, it seems.
So I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the show. I definitely think I wouldn't have thought of them as Indian descent, Indian Asian. But I do appreciate him just doing that holistically. Like, hey, we're just gonna make them all this type of people because
except the air nomads.
The air nomads was the one group that I was like, I wonder what they were supposed to represent, because I was like,
they were diverse,
and
within themselves.
Yeah. But I think that makes a little bit of sense, because the air nomads
are not a people. They're just like their own.
Yeah, they're nomads. Yeah, I guess anyone could come and go.
And they were scattered, so yeah, it would make sense.
But yeah, it was like the one black guy wasn't in the movie was an air nomad.
Yeah.
So
Eskimo adjacent. Hernandez says he was thinking of the Water Tribe. Sorry, what were we gonna say?
Yeah, that's why I said
the Southern
Inuit.
Water Tribe in the movie, they looked like Eskimos. Yeah, definitely see that.
Yeah, I think that was cool. I appreciated that because it kind of felt like, oh, like different nations. And yeah, I thought that was a cool vibe. It's casting. Like Hollywood.
It's casting.
Hollywood is probably always going to have some difficulty. Let me not say difficulty. Hollywood has created a system where sometimes they don't do well at casting main roles with people of color, especially back then. Nowadays, I feel like the system's a little bit different because, well, they did do Cleopatra anyway. So, I think that's an interesting point. So okay.
The last thing I'll point out is that the spirit realm didn't play a huge part in the first season anyway, but what was there was pretty much dumped on in the movie.
Yeah, basically what they did is they had one patch of forest that they can film any of it in, and they just continued, like, they just shot it from different angles.
All the fog machines.
Yeah, it was like fog machines and just running forward down the same path. Like, it was...
They broke one of the cameras, and they were going to throw it away, and M. Night was like, wait, I have a great idea.
Yeah, it's... I was going to note one thing. Okay, so actually... I'll get to that note in a second, but I wanted to just go through the movie. Like, let's just start from the beginning and just like talk about it,
Talk about it.
So I want to like start at the very beginning, like just go through all the different scenes, give our takes on it. Some things that I noticed throughout the movie, things that y'all noticed, so on and so forth. So let's start from the very beginning. The introduction to Sokka and Katara. I thought they would just call her Katara. Because I feel like that would have...
They might as well have.
But
they tried.
They tried, but they're like, man, we can't butcher this name. So we just got to call it Katara. So one thing that really stood out to me immediately, particularly as an Avatar fan, and I know it stuck out to you guys, was that Sokka, aka Sokka, cataract. Sorry, I ended up just a cataract. That Sokka was a like straight man. He was like barely like. There's like one.
He was 26.
Huh?
He was 26.
He was 26 in the show. In the movie?
No,
like in real life, yeah.
The actor was really old.
He was 35. Let's be real. And he was trying to look 26. But you know, like I was cool with the casting. I was like, okay, whatever. But then, like the way that they wrote him was like, this isn't Sokka. This is just a dude. You know, like it was. I don't know how you felt about the characters. Introduction.
They really zeroed in on him missing his dad. He mentioned his dad like 8 times before they even left the Southern Water Tribe.
It's true.
Which is kind of to Sokka's character, right? Like
later in the show it is.
Yeah, they're trying to build it.
It's just implied because Sokka was a 3-dimensional fleshed out character that you kind of be like, oh, that's why he acts this way because he has a daddy issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the movie, it immediately showed that it was going to struggle with show don't tell.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And do the opposite. And just everybody's just going to talk way too much. Exposition dump here.
Exposition.
Like, oh, I'm feeling this way, so let me voice it.
You know that I lost my mother in the, like, it's like, say it. Like, Shailene said the same thing. She's like, it's all tell, no show, you know?
All tell.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I called it like the exposition dumps. Well, everyone calls it that, but it was that.
So how did y'all feel about the first moment when they introduced Aang? Like him being underwater.
Bruh, that junk was hilarious. They were like, look, there's this glowing thing under the ice that we're standing on. Let's crack the ice that we're standing on.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, we gotta go. Yeah,
they were surprised that it was cracked. Like,
fair enough. Okay, check this out. Fair enough. If you live out on the whatever it's called, like those ice sheets are pretty thick, right? So like you breaking it is not like, it's like people do ice fishing, right? They just cut a hole and whatever, boom, right? So you'd have to think that they'd have to be aware. I think at first that's how I felt. It wasn't until I realized, oh, the orb is coming out of the water. Of course that would like freak you out because you wouldn't expect that. You would just think, oh, let me crack it, then rip the ice away, slowly get in there, like dig in there, and then I'd pull it because it's a thick ice sheet, you know? So I felt the same way, and then I thought about it. I said, let me be fair.
Your explanation makes a whole lot more sense than their actual reaction.
So I'll give you that, but I'll raise you another. The funniest part of the movie was when they're walking away from the orb. And Katara grabs Sokka's...
the boomerang.
Not boomerang. That junk was an axe, but... Well, I guess whatever. Grabs his weapon of choice. And she runs off screen. And without the camera moving, Sokka's like, Katara, don't you hit that orb! And then it smash cuts to Katara full body cracking this orb and then getting blasted like a cartoon character.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That joke was so funny, dude.
I don't know if that was supposed to be humorous or that was unintentional, but
there are so many moments like that. It's like, was this supposed to be played for laughs, or are they serious? They didn't even mention it. You know that it was like she just slid across the ice, and we're not even gonna.
Well, I think the wind from inside the orb blew her, but it was like the fact that she got blown back is fine, but I think just the way it was framed and edited, it was goofy.
It was.
So one thing, I don't know if I was tripping, but when he first came out the water and they showed the orb, it looked like they were showing Avatar Roku, not him. Like when they showed,
what do you mean?
They showed the orb and they never did like a zoom in on the orb to show Aang in the orb until like after he started to break out, kind of, sort of, or like whatever. And there was a shot when it was coming out of the water, and I have to go back and look, but I
know what you're talking about.
I was like,
spirit giant thing.
I was like, is that Avatar Roku inside of there? Like, which would make sense because that would be his Avatar state, him taking on a greater form of him. And if they did that, I was going to say, yo, they actually tried for a moment.
Yeah, that would have been a very cool detail, but I didn't notice it, so I'm not going to give them credit.
Okay, so they so they free Ong. Well, first of all, let's just talk about how like, well, it kind of makes sense because like I just felt like Ong was a little bit too like relaxed. He just when they took him into the place, right? He wakes up and they're like, "Hey, why were you out there?" He was like, "I was mad." And like,
which I mean, okay, that kind of tracks, right? Because for the first part of the show, Aang was unwilling to really deal with his angst about what happened, and he was kind of like sidestepping, and that's kind of part of his character is I'm not going to deal with the things that are bothering me.
That's true.
Yeah,
so sure, I'll give him that.
Even from then, though, they kind of also set up that Aang was always going to have like this really chipper tone, no matter what he was saying. And I think that kind of contributed to the stiltedness. Like he seemed super one-dimensional, even though he was saying, "Yeah, I was mad and I ran away, but everything's okay now." Like I don't know, just his delivery was super weird.
Super weird.
Yeah.
Super weird. And it was just like, it just felt weird. And of course, like, okay, things were on track. Okay, boom, the bright light, they show up. And then, like, they were like, get all the old people, because I guess they were going to take them hostage, right? And then, like, they find him, and he's like, just take me. And it just felt like that whole moment. And then, like you said, the exposition dump, where Grandma goes, a long time ago. Like,
Madam
exposition. Shailene caught it. Did y'all see Sokka's face when old lady was telling the story of the whimsical magical story of the Avatar or the Avatar? He looked so concerned. Like it wasn't like it wasn't a like, oh, this is really magical, wonderful. He looked like, oh, are we all gonna die? Like it was like, who is directing you? Like,
right?
Like, what is
both
happening?
of them? Sokka and Katara both had the weirdest listening faces the entire movie. Katara, I was going to say it later, but I don't know what kind of direction she was getting. She always looked like she was devastated. Her parents had just both died, and then she was being told that she would have to like skip the funeral and shoot this movie. Like it was so bad. But yeah, he looked. He had a few crazy faces.
It just really felt like the writing and the direction was just like literally like just do stuff. Odds. Like it's like they were like seem like you're disturbed like with the direction. It's like, okay, I'll do what I got to do. So Aang gets taken. He gets taken on this ship.
Can I stop for a moment?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Here, when Aang is taken, because this is also the reveal of Zuko.
Yes.
And his face is not nearly gross enough for me.
Yes, I wrote that down. This man's scar barely exists.
Agreed.
Barely. It came off, I guess, and makeup wasn't on set, so they couldn't fix it. Because when they did the zoom in when he was wearing his helmet, I was like, this is just some regular guy. Like, I'm the prince. It's like, man, no, you're not.
They literally were like, yo, we don't want to do this every shoot. We want to do the easiest thing we can do makeup wise. So it
really does feel like
let's not go the full, because I mean, yeah, like you said, like there's no way you could walk away from the show and see like Zuko without seeing his scar. Like that was his defining physical
at a distance.
Yeah, from a distance. Oh, that's Zuko. Oh, that's Zuko. And it really felt like they de-emphasized that for whatever reason. It's just weird decisions. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Soyerim just I'm assuming he's joking, but he made the joke that the direction was just that the actors had to know what the characters were like from watching the show. At least in the case of Aang, Noah Ringer did not watch the show. He got the line. They told him about the character. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
He was purposefully, or M. Night liked him. He was like, he's homeschooled. He doesn't really watch a lot of TV. So we just talked to him about the character, and we understood. Yes,
it's incredible.
Yes.
It's incredible.
So they set him up.
GG game. Good game, y'all. Like from the moment he stepped on the set, M. Night Shyamalan goes, GG. It's over. This is mine now.
He didn't do that bad. I mean, aside from the direction he probably got, I thought Noah was fine.
Yeah, he wasn't like, to be honest, like when looking at all the characters, like I think they were caricatures of their characters, right? Like minus Sokka, because they just completely neutered his humor element. They probably just weren't able to write well enough to do that, so they said, bump it. Let's not waste our time. Let's just straight man delivery. He's the older brother who cares, whatever.
Overprotective. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Sokka's protective. Sokka misses his dad. You know, like they did get some of his personality, but yeah, they missed.
They just cut the humor part. They did one element later, which we'll get to. He kind of did some humor, but like, you know,
it seemed like they didn't know why Sokka was funny in the cartoon, because he wasn't funny because he cracked jokes. Like he was just funny as like his movements.
He was goofy.
Yeah, and they didn't like the actor was super stiff. Jokes, like you were saying, his facial expressions didn't make any sense. They tried to do like slapstick at the beginning because, Katara's got the ball of water. Yeah, she dropped it on Sokka. I always get wet. He made his line, but then it was like, the delivery on that was terrible.
It was more of a like, I always get wet, like angry instead of like, come on, guys. Like,
right.
You know. Speaking of that, though, did you guys notice like when she's holding this water droplet, how much water was falling out of it, and yet it never shrank or like changed size at all.
CGI, man, graphic, like it's top notch.
Yeah, sorry. Continue, Kyle.
Well, no, that was pretty much it. I mean, I will say the only time I think it got a chuckle out of me, and it was only because Appa was involved. But whenever they first released Aang, and then he was inspecting Appa, and then he got crushed by Appa's tail, and he was like, "It's eating me," and it cut really quick.
Yeah,
I was like, okay. That was funny.
That was a good... Dang, I forgot about that. I remember watching that and being like, nice. And then I think at some level it gave me hope.
Yes, same.
And then I forgot about it, but I still had the hope, and the hope was dashed.
It was dashed. It was completely dashed. It's like they saw, like somebody saw the show, but they literally just like, it's just too much effort. Like throw a little bit here or there, or like multiple people wrote the script, so it's just like kind of all over the place. So okay, Aang gets taken to the ship, right? He's in this room. First of all, let me say this about the movie. One thing that I think that Hollywood struggles with sometimes when taking from one medium to another is like sometimes keeping the tone, right? So the hardest part I think to really get across from The Last Airbender, Avatar The Last Airbender, is that the show was very serious, but it was also very light, right? Like, I think even the cinematography wasn't like light enough for me. Like, I think it was still too like movie gritty. Like, they were trying to make a very serious movie when like, yes, Avatar The Last Airbender was a serious show with real stakes and like real meaningful moving moments, but they really stayed saccharine quite a bit of the show, like very happy and they just completely wiped that. So I think it made everything weird from that point on. You know, like Aang doesn't really feel like the right character in this movie. It has to be Aang because you can't have, you know, that really goofy kid who runs around, does stupid stuff, and like does this little water trick, you know, air trick, you know, like you can't have that in this movie. So anyway, I say all that to say because what really struck me in the next scene when he's on the ship is that like Aang's like, I have my back to you. Like they started with him having his back to them and kind of this like, I don't know. It just didn't feel like him. Like Aang was always very open and like would just kind of talk to you very like, hey, what's up? Hey, I'm cool. I don't know what's going on. Like it just felt like he was already had his guard up.
He was naive.
Yeah, you know, like he was naive, but this seemed like a very guarded Aang. Like a very like, I don't trust nobody. What's going on? You know, he was stupid because he didn't understand what the test was going to be. But I just felt like...
Yeah, what the heck?
You know, I don't know. I didn't like the vibe of Aang from the very beginning. It just didn't fit.
I thought the whole test scene was weird. Like, I get... It just felt like the minutes that they spent talking about the test and then performing the test and then Aang complaining that they said you let me go. and then carefully explaining, no, but you actually passed the test, and unfortunately, you are the one person in the world who could pass this test. Yes. And if you had failed the test, we would have let you go happily. But
writing.
It's like, bro, just lock him up. You don't need the whole thing. We know he's the Avatar. You know he's an Earthbender.
You could do even better writing where they don't tell him. They walk out, and then one of the guards go, "Man, he's the only person that's ever passed." You know, like whatever. Right. But like doing it that way is just you're lazy
on the nose.
And okay, let me ask you guys, what do y'all feel about Iroh?
Iro.
Oh
my gosh.
Iro.
Sorry, I actually do like his name, but.
I forgot that they did my boy like that and changed his name too. I thought he was one of the ones that was preserved. Genuinely.
No. So what do you
think? The casting was completely off. Like he was tall, thin, and handsome, and then his voice was like sultry. I was like, no, this guy's a dreamboat. Where is Iroh, who's gonna give me advice?
Yeah, where's the chubby grandpa?
Yeah. It's like, no, this is not.
You know, I wasn't too mad about it because I felt that likelihood is that you couldn't really get the mix of what they wanted. So they just chose like somebody. Like it just felt like they were like, let's choose a person and give him dreadlocks or whatever. And
did you notice how strong his accent was compared to everybody else in the movie?
Yeah, he had a very strong accent. So I didn't feel good about it because, yeah, like you said, I missed and then he wasn't the cheery uncle that we know, right? Like
he also was missing a lot of humor.
He was very he was just that one aspect of Iroh when he's very serious and he's like giving hardcore wisdom instead of the
very supportive, very defendant of his nephew.
Yes, and then they would show those weird like skipping ahead where he's getting his feet massaged or whatever. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, where did that come from?
Because it would only feel right if you knew the Iroh who was all about that kind of stuff, drinking tea and like, you know, kind of like, oh, we should make life easy and
relaxing.
Enjoy it. And,
like
that was my favorite Iroh moment. And he was like, oh, there's a pretty girl in this village who, you know, blah blah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, that's another scene that just ended weird because he's talking to Zuko and Zuko's like, let me show you why I can't stay here. And then he talks to this kid and has a super awkward conversation where he's like, and then the prince got thrown in the trash, you know, or just whatever. And the kid walks away and he's like, I'm going to find my honor. Like, you didn't explain yourself, you didn't make a point, and then you didn't finish the conversation and the scene ended.
Yeah. That's when they knew that like they didn't have any other way to explain his motivation. Like like they
didn't have any way to exposition what happened.
They could have easily done a dream sequence of him in the bed tossing and turning, and him just being in that moment where it's like, son, you've like if they could use some exposition there. Like they
could have used the same clip,
same exact clip, just with very little context, and I still think it would have worked. You know.
You know what? I don't know if you guys noticed this, but a change they made to his backstory in the cartoon, he challenges. I think correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. He challenges his father, the Fire Lord. I think.
No. He speaks.
He does challenge a general. Yeah. He does challenge a general, but he's speaking out, and his father
takes his place. But just takes the person's place.
Yeah, right. I don't know. It was weird. I think they changed something to make it seem like... So what
they did differently is that when they asked, like, he said that his reason for speaking up because he wanted to save his friends or something stupid like that. In the show, he just simply he just had a better idea. And he was like, oh, we should do it this way, blah, 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 blah. And he's like...
save lives or something.
Like, no, like, you just need to not talk. Like, this is not the place to talk. You know how this rules. So, since you disrespected him, Agni Kai. And then his dad was the person instead. Like, he wasn't expecting his dad, you know? So, at least that's how I recall it, but I might be wrong.
It's, and then it fell super flat because, again, in the flashback, like, they do a cutaway and you just hear Zuko screaming in agonizing pain, but then it cuts to his face and there's no scar. And so
it's a little burned.
It fell flat again.
A tinge.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. We were way earlier.
Yeah,
he got captured.
Yeah, so he gets captured. Like, I feel like, General Zhao, which is interesting because General Zao was definitely a very important character in the first season, but like he comes a little bit later, and like I feel like they did the right decision to bring him early to make him who he was, like kind of the villain.
Plot along.
Yeah, like really early, because otherwise it would be hard. So I wasn't mad at that. I was like, cool. But General Zao was even more disrespectful, I feel like, in this show, in the movie, than in the show. Like, yeah, he disrespected, but maybe I'm wrong. But like when they were at the dinner, like it was just a lot of disrespect, a lot of stuff.
You're not supposed to be wearing the armor.
When he talks to the Fire Lord, he's like, not only is your son incompetent, I think he's also like, bro, you're still talking about the king's son. You gotta chill.
And and it's interesting, like, I'm kind of skipping around now. I'm going to kind of like zoom past some stuff, but like, it's interesting that like Zhao, they show Zhao and they show the Fire Lord, and the Fire Lord is almost humanized in this movie, right? Like,
he's more empathetic towards his son.
He's more empathetic. Matter of fact, yeah, there's a moment where he says, don't do something because, like, don't do this.
He's like, don't kill my son.
Yeah.
He also said, like, better watch out because my son might get him before you do. Or something like that. He's like basically rooting for his son.
Yeah. I
called him out on that. I was like, there's no way he loves his kid.
Not at all. He just sat on his fiery throne. They did have that moment where he did the thing where he's like, his fingers were tapping, like, kind of like aggravated. Sure, yeah. I was like, okay, I see you. But yeah, like, so moments happen, like, they save. So this is the first moment where I felt okay about the action, when Aang escaped, because it really did feel like slippery Aang. Like he just boop, came out the door, boop, scoop, doop, runs across the thing, bloop, and he's just off, right? Like that felt right. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe the action's gonna be solid, right? How did y'all feel about the moment? You agree? Like it kind of felt pretty decent,
Yeah, I noticed that, like, he was using wind to blow the soldiers around, but then the same wind did not affect him. He would just walk through the breeze. And I'm like, okay, so at least the show respected the fact that even like Aang is blown around by the wind. He's not just, it isn't just, it's not magic, but in the movie it was basically magic. There's also a really funny, obvious dub moment. Actually, I think it might have been before they even got to the orb, where Zuko is facing away from the camera and he goes, "Uncle, look!"
Yeah, and it's
like really obvious that he's not talking.
It's like there's no action. Like his head is slowly moving. You don't see his jaw move. It's just like they're like, okay, we forgot to film that. We forgot.
But yeah, the escape was cool. Using the kite, I'm glad they kept the kite as a.
Didn't make it like a surfboard or something.
Or just have him fly because he's got wind power.
Yes,
I feel like that's the cop out they would have had.
Give him a wingsuit or something. So they rescue him. They go. They're gonna like, hey, we're gonna stick together. They go to the Earth Kingdom. All right. So now begins the first sequence of events where I felt like the movie felt like you could see it falling apart before your eyes. Right. So that little kid runs up. Hey, help me. They go and they get taken to the Earth Kingdom prison. Now,
because Katara's running her mouth,
talking that trash, baby. But Katara,
she's a bender.
Katara's kind of was a trash talker, right? Like she was pretty.
Oh, there was another joke here. This is where she froze Sokka.
Yes, for the first time.
We were supposed to laugh
for the first time.
Oh, because she's bad. I forgot she's bad at water bending.
Yes. Bad at water bending.
That freeze. I don't know if you looked at the freeze thing, but it looked so janky.
Like it looked very bad.
It looked like they just slipped a little ice, like plastic suit on him. Like it was just made of like. Like I was like, y'all should have just done CG and just called it a day. Like it looked so bad. But yeah, that was a joke. They tried.
That was a fair joke. I guess what I meant about Katara running her mouth is it really felt like she like strongly escalated the situation. Like the soldiers were basically like, they're antagonistic. They're chasing a little kid, but they're immediately like, leave this kid alone. Like, you're not my daddy. Like, it's just, it just seemed like they didn't even try to reason or to get information.
Yes.
Or anything. It was like, I'm going to get mad at you and I'm going to get you mad at me and then I'm going to freeze my brother.
Yes. It just, I mean, it all kind of makes sense. Hey, protect the kid. But like, And then like they're like very little resistance. They're just taken, you know, like to the facility, right? And then they're just there. They explain, oh, we're not allowed to like bend or whatever. And then we have to talk about Ang's. The speech of them all.
Ooh, the speech.
The speech that was one of the quotes. Earthbenders, stop being lazy. like
riveting.
Like he came out of nowhere. Like he just walked in there and he's like, look at you. Like
he's like complimenting their culture. He's like, you are a rich people.
Right.
Look at
it's like, what?
You got dirt under your feet. What are you doing? Like, let me ask y'all a question real quick. Stop being lazy, first of all. If the Avatar was here, would y'all do something?
He challenged them immediately.
He asked them the question because he was like, I'm not going to tell them I'm the Avatar if they say, nah, it wouldn't really matter if the Avatar was here. We'd still be, you know what I'm saying? Like,
he was good. Yeah, like maybe he should have asked that quietly before making a scene. Because what's he going to do? If they say, actually, no, we don't believe in the Avatar. If he shows up, we're probably just going to be, we're going to keep being lazy. Was he just going to skulk away with all these soldiers? Like, what's that kid talking about?
The earth is right beneath your feet. The ground is an extension of who you are. Like, bro, like he's giving this epic speech, and then the worst choreographed, like, so it was supposed to be. I get what they're trying to go for. It was a cinematography moment of a single shot, right? Mm-hmm. They're trying to make all of this happen in one shot with no cuts. But the only way to do it when you're a badly produced movie with bad direction is that you have to kind of put gaps in between everything.
Yeah.
So everybody does their thing right. So it felt almost like you were watching a multiplayer video game where like the server was a little slow. So actions were like delayed.
Oh, jeez.
It's like when you're watching a cutscene with your co-op buddy and you're like, dude, you have to push A. Push A. Push A. Every time. It's like waiting for him to push A.
So whoever said 999 ms ping. like you're just slow, just like it.
Yeah, they're just standing around. He's like surrounded by soldiers and it's like, all right, help us, please. Still surrounded by soldiers.
Everything felt so impotent, right? Like, I think you mentioned it earlier. When the Earth guys are like going hard, like doing the stomp the yard stuff, like, and then like one little rock comes up in the air, like, you know, I'm like, what?
And it doesn't even go towards the Fire Nation guys. No. Someone else has to like do another thing to launch it at the fire.
It looked like it was about to stop. Like they put everything into that little bit of movement.
It really did stop.
Oh, we did what we had to do. Three of us.
Maybe they were positioning it for that one guy.
That one guy. He was a sharpshooter.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, when the most dynamic, interesting thing they did in that fight was when they were blocking fire blasts.
Yes.
They pulled up earth walls.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, yeah,
those were actually cool. Pretty good.
Yeah, but it also was like what I think was like the martial arts and the kata that was happening in between everything was good. Like the people were like in sync. It felt smooth, but it was like they didn't animate it to match them. Like even if they changed the movements, like hey, we can't do the earth bending, like you know, hit the ground, blah 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 stuff. Like I don't really understand why they didn't like track with the movement. Like they had choreography to work with, like. Make it feel right. It just felt empty for whatever reason.
So this actually gets to a point that I was talking with Keisha about, which is that it's cool that in the movie they wanted to really focus on the different martial arts attributed to different nations and bending techniques. Mm-hmm. So that was cool, and that's something I think that they were inspired by the show. I think the show tried to do that as well. Yeah, but the show would essentially tie one movement to one reaction. Yeah. You know, they didn't have to do a whole
flourishes and
a whole like series of motions in order to make a pebble move. Mm-hmm.
That's
and Aang did a lot. Aang was out here throwing elbows and cartwheeling and doing everything he could. and there'd be like one gust
one
of
little
wind.
gust, like that was slightly delayed. Like it would come out mad late, and then the person would be like, "Oh, I guess I should fly back now."
Yeah. And I'll bring it up more later, but I actually watched an episode from the cartoon after this, and it was the episode where the Fire Nation invades the Northern Water Tribe, and it showed like obviously the water vendors are just amazing. They're just throwing water everywhere. But there's a scene where like there's a line of fire soldiers who are doing the same thing. They're doing basically a kata and like advancing as a line. But every step, there's a fire blast.
Goo. I know exactly what you're talking about. They're all stepping forward. Yeah. One punch forward and a step forward and boom, boom, boom. And
every single step. And I'm like, this is not in the movie. Yeah. They took it way too far.
Yeah.
And I think this decision to make multiple movements and these severe delays between when, things happened made the characters seem a whole lot weaker. And like bending wasn't actually as useful because if somebody can get in close while you're doing all these other movements, then it doesn't really matter if you can bend 5 minutes later, And because like you're saying,
like a skilled martial artist could take out every bender in the
movie by hand, straight
easily.
Up. That's why like the Blue Spirit was such a gangster because he could just rush you like you didn't do nothing. Shailene was like. This kind of like I can't say, I don't know if she said this explicitly, but I might have like amplified it. She's like, it feels like everybody's taking their turn. I was like, you know what? This feels like a turn-based battle. Like
it was an RPG,
like, okay, I do my thing. Okay, I respond. Okay, you do your thing. Like
so true.
it was very weird, And then I love the response of the Fire Nation. That literally 3 people got injured in the fight, right? And then 50 of them all fleed. Immediately. They were like, let's get out of here. And they just...
Well, that's the other thing, right? Like earthbending, it's cool that you can throw boulders and stuff, although please throw some boulders. But like they didn't do any of the other cool stuff earthbenders do, like creating slabs to slap people,
like moving the ground, shifting things,
burying, like digging them in up to their knees in earth, like all these cool things that an earthbender can do. Oh my god, that scene in the do you know what the worst part of that scene was compared to the cartoon? The whole idea of the earthbending prison or internment camp only worked in the cartoon because they were on a ship.
Metal ship.
So
they were on a metal ship.
I recalled that, but I was like, maybe I'm misremembering their first prison escape. I was like, I vaguely remember. No, that was later because I vaguely remember everybody being in a place where they had all the dirt around them, and specifically like them being like, "Hey, we're not gonna fight, even though we have the tools to," because it was like there was a pile of rocks that they started using to pepper the soldiers. And I think that's 1 for 1 as far as, because that was like the first, I recall that.
Okay.
But
there was a pile of rocks in the ship, on the ship too, because they got the coals.
Yeah, they used coal and they also used airbending and water.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm mixing
now those moments are melding in my mind too.
Yeah, I'm not sure anymore. I'm not sure. I need to go. I was even.
You know what? The ship was more of a prison break. They were there for somebody, I think.
Yeah, but it seemed like it was a call out because it was a little boy.
I remember that. But that might have been on the metal ship. I think Steve might be right though.
So this was
there was a little boy and his father was on the ship.
But they did have the coal because they used the coal, and I think you're right. I think so. It was a mix, but
and then Katara gave the speech.
Yes, Katara did. You're right. She gave the speech, like the Avatar is this and yeah, and then he was. I don't think he did it, and I think he revealed himself reluctantly. Yeah,
he did.
So
that reminds me. I love how Katara is literally plastering posters of the Avatar all over the Earth Kingdom.
So okay. So that sequence happens, and then they have a weird kind of sort of montage with a narration.
Yes.
That was so garbage. Okay.
It was bad.
Yeah.
So check this out. I don't know if y'all remember this. There's a scene that showed Aang fighting some Fire Nation soldiers in what was a market. With which I was looking for the cabbage dude. That was my first thought. I was like, yo, it's cabbage dude.
Would have been a good touch.
So I don't know if you remember this, but like they're fighting in the market, but nobody's reacting to their fighting. They're all just living their lives normally. Like, and then they're having this epic fight in the middle of the market. Well, not epic, because it was just Ong doing a whole bunch of flourishes and then one little like airburst pushing a guy. But I was like, guys, like, what is this direction? Like, tell people to kind of pay attention, you know? Like, it was something. It was just weak. It was just weak. Like,
everybody was NPCs.
Everybody was NPCs. Truly. Then they hadn't gotten to the alert status, you know.
Did Aang have trouble? Excuse me. Did Aang have trouble learning to waterbend in the cartoon?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah. He was struggling. Just
making sure. I'm like, I don't remember it being such a big. I know he struggled with like a little bit of PTSD from the storm, but I don't remember that being connected to waterbending for him.
Yeah, he just really couldn't get it to like move and do all the stuff, and he kind of like that's. And I think. I think he just always kind of struggled. No, wrong. I think he was good with water, and he struggled with.
So he was.
Earth.
I think he was bad at first, but then he picked it up like faster than Katara, and she was jealous.
And that's why she stole that scroll, so she could like learn some technique.
Is that it?
Remember, like I remember her getting.
I know
jealous.
She stole the scroll. Yeah, but
yeah,
she did steal the scroll,
and I think it's because. No, I think he picked it up really fast. Like
I thought he did too.
And I think
trying to remember. Yeah,
I don't know.
And
if
he
Katara
struggled
was
with
jealous.
fire.
He did struggle with fire. He struggled with earth.
No, he was. He really dug fire, and then he burned Katara, and then he was struggling with fire. I think he struggled with earth from the jump. Like
yeah, he did.
He struggled a lot with that, because it was like he needed to be strong and forceful, and he wasn't used to that.
Because it was the opposite of
he's
air.
an airbender.
Yeah. And
that was the biggest
Sorum said it got worse as he went. Comparison to earth with fire, water with a breeze. So yeah. So
I know Katara ended up being his master.
Yeah.
After they left the Northern Water
She
Tribe.
trained with. So okay. Do you all remember the moment where what's his name? Sokka, for whatever reason, like it felt weird. I kind of know Sokka kind of felt the same way, but he was like, we are starting a rebellion and we can't give up now. We must not believe. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
this man became a freedom fighter.
Like, it just felt so out of pocket. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, you guys helped. And there's like that montage, but it just felt really overplayed.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Sokka in the cartoon pretty just focused on protecting his friends and his sister up to a point? Like he wasn't really. He hated the Fire Nation.
Yes, he hated the Fire Nation,
and so he was willing to like join and help with the mission, but he wasn't like. I don't think gung ho about like the freedom of the Earth Kingdom or anything like that.
I really felt like it was Katara who felt more that way. And he was more about like, hey, we need to get to where we need to get to. Like he was all about
he's
the
like
mission.
Protecting people.
Like
yeah.
You know, we need to get here. Oh, we need to meet Dad here. We need like he was always like focused.
Object.
You know,
he's focused on the object, the higher objective or the next objective.
You know, so okay, so that moment happens, and then they're like chilling, and then Ong said, hey, I want to go check out the other, air temple, right? And so, they're like, hey, we shouldn't do that, whatever. Did y'all see the moment when he actually escaped? It was one of the worst moments in the movie. So it's
escaped
at night when he jumps on Appa and he flies away. Like, he's like...
after messing with the water?
Yeah, and he like sneaks over to Appa and he jumps on it. Did y'all see the weird, like, synchronized... waking up of both Katara and what's his name, like zombies,
they were
and then looking
sleeping
to the left.
I think that Kiesha and I were too focused on how freaky Appa's face looked in that shot. We didn't realize they woke up.
It was terrible. It was like literally like they were like, act like you're sleeping and pretend like he woke you up when he escapes. Like, but they did it in unison. They both like full body from the hips, straight sat up and turned left to watch him fly away. It was so bad. I was like,
you know what I was gonna make a joke that maybe he yelled "yip yip" too loud, but they didn't say "yip yip" in the movie.
No, they never said "yip yip." He
didn't say anything.
They never said
like what's his name? Appa was kind of like Momo. They tried, but here's the thing: realistic Momo is kind of terrifying. So it was hard for me to sometimes think that he was making the goofy, funny Momo that he normally was. I was just like, what is this giant rat doing? Like running around. I don't know. I just felt like Momo was a little bit too realistic.
Oh, we totally skipped the Southern Air Temple scene when he realizes that all his friends are long dead.
Yes.
Quickly, I'll just say that I don't remember exactly how this went down in the show, but it seemed to me that as soon as they landed and the place was like overrun with brush and like falling apart, he should have realized something was amiss.
Well,
I
think in the show he had a similar reaction. He's like, "Oh, they're probably inside, or like they're fine," like he kind of was still delusional. But Sokka and Katara were like, it was like 100 years ago. He's like, no, like it's all good, like. We're far away. And then he started seeing everything, and then he tripped out.
Well, I think he, at that point in the show, he understood, like, yes, it's been 100 years, but that doesn't mean that my clan was destroyed. Like, he knew that time had passed.
Well, maybe.
But he was still delusional. He was still delusional about the fact that the air nomads had been wiped out.
Yeah.
But in here, he's like really has no idea. Like it's been 100 years. It was weird for me. I was watching. I'm like, isn't it very obvious that this place has been abandoned for decades?
I don't know. I think maybe in the show it's similar that he wasn't aware because it was really seeing the skeleton of Mont Gyatso that triggered him, right?
Yeah.
So
well, either way, that would have triggered him because if things had gone well, Mont Gyatso would have been buried, but instead he was in a mass grave.
But that's what I'm saying. So, I think he thought that it was still normal times. Like he still hadn't grasped the idea that 100 years had passed. Like he was still like in that kind of like, oh, like people are just being weird. Like I was only gone for a few days. Like he was still delusional from what I recall. I haven't watched it in like a year.
Yeah, they had a small conversation about it when they did find the mass grave. Katara did say it that it's been, she said like or nearly 100 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm. In the movie.
Yeah, in the movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, she should have brought that up, I don't know, on the way there.
Well, she was running behind him, and she did the thing. She was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you."
No, I mean, like, on Appa, like, flying on the way there.
I agree. Like, why wait
so much time to have this conversation?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say, I think this is one of the scenes that almost gave me hope about what was to come, because it's one of the better ones they did as far as show don't tell. Like, they kind of built the suspense by him running ahead of them and then him not knowing and then coming upon the grave versus, I guess, them saying it beforehand. So it was one of those things that was kind of up in the air. It's like, oh, the big reveal that now he sees everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised they went for the mass grave approach. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of skeletons.
Yeah, in a kid's movie.
Well, I don't even know if they thought they were a kid's movie. To be honest, I don't even know what they knew. I really honestly just feel like multiple people wrote the script. So, like, some people knew the source material and some people didn't. Like, it just felt like sometimes, oh, they did a good job. What is this trash? So.
Yeah.
So. Going back to, like, that scene, because that was, like, the introduction to the spirit realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he went into the spirit realm in the show, he talked to what's his name? Avatar Roku, right? He wasn't talking to the dragon yet. I can't remember.
Well, the dragon was Roku.
Yeah.
At least that dragon was Roku. By the way, the dragon in this movie also voiced by a white guy, just saying.
Yeah. He had a long neck. Well, it wasn't his neck. I guess that was his body.
He had a super long neck.
That was his body, but it just felt like his neck.
Well, the part of his body above his legs was very long and very skinny.
Yeah, that's why I felt like a long neck. And I was like, but I guess it's supposed to be a skinny dragon body, but...
it was weird.
And one thing that they kind of sort of... Oh, gosh. Okay, I don't want to skip too far ahead. But so one thing that they kind of ignored was the whole like summer solstice going, him talking to Roku to get an understanding of, I can't remember, was that book 1 or book 2 when he did that? Like when you went the winter solstice and all those different solstices, because he would do that periodically.
I think that was book 2, because that's where he learns I need to go into the Fire Nation.
Well, that was the second time because because he had the original vision within the temple, the air temple, right? Because he went in there and he touched the statue of Roku, and then like he had a moment where he talked to Roku, and then he said, "Hey, meet me at the Fire Nation."
At the summer solstice in the Fire Nation.
Right? Or maybe that was a different air temple. Honestly, I can't remember.
Yeah, there's a few air temples. So it might have been the northern air
temple. So here's the interesting part, right? Okay, so let's briefly talk about, Aang gets captured by the old guy in the temple. I think that's actually what the guy called himself, right? Or something like that. Like when he leaves, he goes to the temple to go see if anybody's around. The old man in the temple is like, my name is the old man in the temple, which was stupid. And then he gets ambushed and taken prisoner. So this is, to me, the best sequence in the movie. I don't really have much to say other than like what we said earlier. Like, yo, it was cool. I love the vibe that they had for the Blue Spirit. Clearly that wasn't the actor.
Well, I think even when he gets ambushed and captured, it makes zero sense. He went there because of a hunch that he had because of a previous vision at the previous air temple. There was no way that they should have expected him to be there.
Mm-mm.
And somehow this old man was able to alert.
But isn't that how he got caught the first time in the show?
I think he was. I don't know, man.
I think he got caught.
I don't remember.
No.
Trap,
sorry.
though?
So in the show, when he gets caught before the Blue Spirit, I think there is an air temple trap somewhere in the show, but in that instance, he gets caught by these elite like bow and arrow snipers from the Fire Nation. Like they just catch him in the woods when Katara and Sokka are sick, and he's out looking for frogs. And they just catch him because they're beasts, and they bring him back, and then the Blue Spirit frees him.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's when Momo is going out grabbing all those things. Yeah. So he gets captured. That whole sequence was the only way that made sense is that General Zhao would have thought, "Hey, where would the Airbender go? He would go to temples, and he's heading this direction. So let's just set up some people there."
Okay.
At every temple,
okay.
I mean, they had a bunch of dudes. So
there's only a few temples.
Yeah, and they're in different areas around the world, so it's really only one place that they'd have to stake out, right? Just on the.
Plus, they've been leaving a super obvious trail because they're leaving posters of Aang around and starting a rebellion.
Yeah, so you kind of know where they're heading. So he gets.
Oh, I love that! I love that show not tell. By the way, when that tell not show when Katara was like, Sokka began to suspect that we were being followed.
Oh.
but listen, we don't know who it actually was. I think it was supposed to be Zuko and Iroh, who kind of were following, but they weren't. No one was actually shown following them.
There's like a beacon of light in the distance.
No, not even that. It was just he's just looking behind him at a ravine, and then they get captured, or he gets trapped later.
that was their way of saying like, uh-oh. Aang might get captured soon.
Rising tension. Maybe he shouldn't split off and do his thing.
So, isn't this a tense moment?
So I think they.
Do I smell?
I think as far as the capture moment was like the strongest moment in the movie. It felt very like on brand. Like once again, I feel like multiple people wrote this movie, and I felt like that was the person who watched the show. Because even the beat to beat like. They had more action, like Aang doing all the weird wind stuff, and there's a little temple thing that I can use. Like, okay, that was stupid.
That was so dumb.
But like him going back to save, Zuko, and then the shot, which is so funny because, like you said, Steve, like they like gave this idea about this elite sniper group. So I guess in a movie context, it doesn't really matter. You're just like, this guy's like a really good bowman, which that shot was absolutely ridiculous because it was a shot like hundreds and hundreds of meters away, right?
Through fog.
as they're moving, like that was some like
moving.
Some like
he led the target.
Sweaty shot, like like
the dude had hacks, man.
Like that dude is hacking. Like he's so good. Somebody reported him. Like,
and it was, it was supposed to be targeted at Zuko too, because they know if they kill Aang by accident, then he'll just regenerate.
Yes.
Right? Yeah,
reincarnate.
So it was a hard snipe. I mean, it was very well done. Like to the show, and then Aang doing the weird fog move.
It took him 10 minutes. To make fog cover.
They're like, and
as they were running.
And I love how the soldiers chasing just stop. Like, oh God, it's fog.
Like, it's almost as if we've never walked across this bridge before and don't realize it's a straight path to exactly where we're going.
Well, I guess in theory they could be like, oh, maybe they're going to attack us back in the fog. Absolutely, they're not. They're running from you. They're going to leave in the fog. Also, you're firebenders. Just blast the fog. Like, you can burn the fog away.
One thing to ask, and maybe I'm tripping, because somebody explicitly says this in the show later in the movie. They say,
I forgot. I know you're going to
They say, oh no, he can make fire out of nothing.
From nothing, yeah, when Iroh did it.
Yes. So in the movie, that's something that they've done. They've nerfed firebending. Only the strongest benders can create fire from nothing. Everyone else has to bend pre-existing fire.
They need a source.
Which if you watch the movie, they always bent from pre-existing fire.
Torches, they were sending those balls of fire whenever they did the siege.
Yeah.
And I recall like stuff like that happening in the movie, like using existing fire and like just whipping it on people. But like I was like, maybe I'm tripping, but I swear like people were just shooting fire from their hands, like off cut, like just anywhere, as long as they could do it.
No. They did not do that in the movie.
In the show,
show they did.
And it was funny in the show, absolutely. Like I just said, there's a scene of soldiers just walking around punching fire out of their fists with every step.
And that was the whole point, like the comet too, making them even stronger firebenders.
Yes,
making more fire.
In the movie, they say the comet lets you firebend from nothing. Everyone can do it. But in the show, the comet just makes everyone
more powerful.
Yeah, it does the same thing. It makes everyone a beast. But
Sultan's comet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a strange, because I didn't catch that until that moment. I was like, I mean, I noted it, like, okay, they keep bending from sources, but I just thought that was this efficiency. Like, let's just use the source and it makes this better, like we don't have to actually conjure it ourselves, which
the only way that the only thing they could conjure themselves apparently was just heat. Because you remember Zuko melts through the ice with just his chi.
But Zuko might have been able to do it on his own. I don't really know. I can't.
No.
He brought a torch to that fight in the spirit room.
No, he definitely could not do it on his own.
I mean, it's interesting because actually, from a like narrative standpoint, like if you think about this TV show, it actually makes sense that would be the way it's done, right? Because earthbenders need earth, airbenders need air.
It's balanced.
Waterbenders need water, right? And it would only make sense that unless you were really good and you could literally pull the elements out of the atmosphere or something, right? Like use the moisture in the air to make a water whip or something, like that you'd have to be really skilled. So that kind of makes sense, but it
doesn't actually make sense, because if you think about it, like, all the other bending, they're literally moving around like a physical thing. Earth, water, and air are physical things, whereas fire is just hot air. It's just air that became very hot.
Combustion.
And became, but I'm saying like the fire itself is just hot air that's hot enough for it to glow.
No, you need something to combust. You can't just like
yeah, no. Combustion needs something to combust, but fire, like the flame, is just all the heat energy from something that's combusting.
But technically,
that makes the air around it hot.
I mean, I get what you're saying, like, but in the same way, I think that you could make sense of that. You could take the iron out of the, air, like to make a thing. But I think just saying like the rules of the show, I kind of get why it would make sense to like.
I think, I mean, if you, that's what he thought. He thought, let me balance firebenders because they're OP. But I've always thought that made perfect sense, like from a physics standpoint, which is funny because physics isn't usually thought of in the context of the cartoon. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not a physicist, so I will I will yield to you,
Steve's.
But like I said, from a narrative standpoint, I get why you would do that, because it kind of balances everything out, right? And so it's actually surprising that they went that route in general, because it seems like more work. It seems like it would be easier just to keep it the way it is, so you could just let the Fire Nation be OP, like just let them. But they really wanted to ground it even more for some odd reason. So
yeah, they staged those plot devices, but especially in the final act, it got pretty unbelievable. In, I guess, like the sense that these are master waterbenders fighting firebenders in an area surrounded by water, and they don't just put out all the fires. So, like, if they could make fire from nothing, it would make more sense that it'd be an equal fight.
Yes.
But because of this balance, they're gonna lose.
Just throw water on it. Yeah, just throw water on the. I mean, I do know that back in the day they had like this Roman fire that never went out. Like it was like some weird pit fire. But maybe you could say, oh, they're using that.
I mean, heck, you can form ice over the. You could have sunk the fireballs, the cannons or what kind of balls, deep into the ice and then covered it up again. Like even if it's still burning somewhere, which it probably wouldn't because there's no air. But like you can definitely put that junk out
if you suffocate it,
or at least separate the firebenders from it.
Or if you suffocate it for I mean, there's a way for things to freeze them in water. But okay, so Aang gets rescued. Zhao figures out cleverly who the blue spirit was, and
tries to assassinate him.
And in one of the moments, he is, that was like kind of true to the show. Of course they got rid of the whole like pirate scene and all that trash. Like, they
the pirate. I forgot about the pirates.
Like
I did too.
They blow them up, which makes sense. Now, one of my favorite lines in the whole movie occurs not long after that, and I'm gonna read it quote for quote. Right. So we have this moment where they're getting ready to go attack the Northern Water Tribe. Well, this is in the future, I guess. So I'll come back to this. So we have Aang and all his crew. They make it to the north, and then so a few things happen, right? They get introduced to the master. What's his name? The water master guy.
His name is Master.
I can't remember his name.
I forgot the general's name too.
Paku.
Paku? Is it Paku?
I thought so.
That sounds close.
It sounds right. So I'll trust you once again, Mr. Physicist.
We'll go with.
I'm looking at the cast list right now, and I have Francis Guinan as Master Paku.
Soyrim says
a white guy,
Paku.
So it was probably
so Soyrim also confirms this. So Paku. So one thing you guys probably noticed immediately, and I was interested to see if they would do it, but I think they made the right choice. They completely just ignored the whole woman can't bend timeline, conflict.
Oh, yeah, they blew past that.
They were like, let's not talk about it.
I mean, they blew past introducing Paku. He just starts talking to them.
That's true.
And actually, Paku's casting, I was like, this is okay. This is fair. Like, it's like a wildly... Like, Paku was a lot skinnier in the show, but I felt like, this seems about right. Like, just kind of like a dad bod guy with some, like kind of stringy hair. Like,
well, I don't know. They call him Master Paku, but in my headcanon, there is no Master Paku in the movie. They just... Because the whole point was they wanted to go to the north to learn, right? To be taught, even in the movie. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But then once they're there, there's no plot at all around learning.
Yeah, no, there is. There is. They show... They 100%.
Is there a learning
they
100%
montage? Show...
not a montage.
No, they show Aang getting trained, right? And he's about to have his sparring session with Master Paku.
Oh, and he like
and
panics.
Then he's like doing the water thing, and then all the water is starting to move. like he about to kill everybody.
What was that about? Is that explained?
I think that's just their way of saying like he's powerful, right? That's how I took it. Once again, that's probably better than them saying, wow, Aang really moved a lot of water today, and he's really powerful, like I would expect them to do. So,
But that showed one of the other things, like, because also when they were there in the show, Sokka and Yue, like they had a whole like subplot.
They had a whole like episode to themselves. It feels like
to make what happens later make sense. Where he volunteers to protect her, and then he's sad when she sacrifices herself. Like both of those moments fell super flat because they never established their relationship. They immediately
they told, not showed.
Well, they tried to.
They barely even told.
No, they tried to. No, didn't they have a whole moment where they're walking together and they're talking and they seem to be getting to know each other, and then and
no, it was later.
I can tell you all the moments of interaction between it was Yue, Yue and Sokka. It's when they first appear, like when they first get to the Water Tribe. And Katara is narrating, and she basically says, and now they're going to get together.
Right.
And it shows them looking at each other.
That's it.
So at first it shows Yue staring, and then it shows Sokka staring, and then it shows Yue smiling a little bit. That was like a 25-second scene. It was. Just those three shots. And then there's the scene of them walking. No. And then he volunteers to be her. I think he volunteers and then they're walking around together.
Exactly. And then but what they're saying is, she says it's been nice spending these last couple of weeks or days, whatever she says, with you. Like it jumps ahead
weeks. Because there's no point, right? There's no way that they already are doing too much in this movie, right? Like at this point they have to do that. I'm not mad at them for that, because I think if in any other world this movie itself would have had to been 2 movies. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they should have made 4 movies.
like this movie alone had too much going on, and I think they made the right decision. Like, sure, from a viewer standpoint, like her sacrifice is like, okay,
it's hollow.
Like, but I think there's a moment where like they're talking, and then what's his name? Sokka, not Sokka. Sokka goes, hey, like, you got to come down and meet my grandma, right? Remember this?
Oh, this is awkward.
And then she's like, he's like, so you got to be prepared for her to ask any questions. So he's like, hey, why is your hair gray? And then
for such a young lady,
for such a young lady, right? And then she gets the whole like story, right? And then Sokka said, you never told me that. I'm like, bro, like, that's on you. Like, you know this girl.
We've been dating 3 years. I've never heard this story.
You never told me that. Like, it just felt so weird for him to say that. Like, bro.
And she called him on it too. And she was like, well, you never asked. Your grandma did.
To be fair, so Soy just pointed out, he says in the show they skipped ahead as well. So maybe the romance was just rushed in the show.
Yeah, in the
maybe I'm just remembering.
You have to remember, like, in a show, they give the whole episode. That's 30 minutes, right? So you can do a lot with that. So like, you can build
skip
characters
slower.
So it was definitely like, what it was like. But I think the movie, they just had to make it that. The writing was terrible. Like, they could have made that moment, even if they were gonna skip it and make it short. You never told me that.
I'll also say that in the show, she didn't tell them that story until the moon had been killed.
Right.
True.
Like, it didn't come up at all until what's his face? Until Ira was like, "What? You've been touched by the moon spirit?"
I can see it.
And she's like, "Yes." And then she basically told the story, except much shorter.
I was stillborn. Then they put me, then gave me life in my hair too.
Yeah.
So it was.
Although I think they hinted at it before. She just didn't tell the story before then.
Yeah,
I don't remember that. Probably, I'd imagine they did. They did really well about that in the show.
Yeah, in the show they did an incredible job. I still miss UA to this day. UA, but okay, so that moment happens, and then we flash so they know, like, okay, we need to get prepared, right? Because they know that the Fire Nation is coming, right? So they kind of meanwhile
I gotta say one
Zuko.
thing.
Meanwhile, we learn that Zuko is alive and he's hidden on the Fire Nation ship.
Wait,
and that was another scene that was like, it started out of nowhere and it ended out of nowhere.
What were you about to say?
I gotta say this one thing about. I'm not gonna go too far into it, but Yue's hair from the back when they meet her for the first time was sort of a meme for a while. I'm not going to say why.
I know exactly because I thought about it. I thought about it, but I didn't say anything. I said, I'm not going to say nothing.
I got to bring it up because moments like that, I'm like, did nobody watch the film back?
I was actually, after that moment, I thought to myself, I wonder if there's like a whole group of people who are like thinking to themselves, let's make sure no landmass has that formation. Let's make sure nothing looks like that. Like, let's be very careful.
And they failed.
But they failed hard. So okay, Steve, you were talking about that moment where like they all of a sudden, you know, he's alive. You know, in the show, it was kind of like that too, right? Like it was a surprise that he was alive. Like you knew he was alive because Zuko's important. So
he can't die.
I don't remember how they like what the pacing was like on that reveal that he had lived. But I just didn't care. Like, of course I knew he was alive. I knew he would be alive. But like, I fully expected, I don't know. It just, I'm trying to describe how I felt.
Nothing. That's what you felt.
What was missing.
Nothing. That you can't describe it because you felt nothing. You're just like,
So you're talking about Zuko's reveal of being alive in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So he's, what is it? Iroh is talking to Zhao.
Yes.
About the invasion, and then it just smash cuts to him talking to Zuko
right in the boiler room.
In the boiler room after Zhao.
You're missing one really
like, sorry.
You're missing one really important detail, and I'm gonna read it for you verbatim. So so you know they're talking about, hey, we're heading into battle, blah 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 blah. Commander Zhao turns to Iroh and says, again. Wait for it. He says, I'm gonna laugh trying to read this because I died laughing when I read it earlier. Again, I offer my condolences on your. Hold on. I got this. Again,
that was a savage.
Again,
man.
I offer my condolences on your nephew burning to death in that terrible accident. Jeez. I was like, dang, Zhao. Like, that is so vicious. Like,
so vicious.
Oh, like, you didn't have to add them details. Your nephew
and his delivery on it saying was perfect.
Zhao was the best actor in that movie. Hands down.
Easily.
Hands down.
Yeah. I mean, what was his name? Cliff?
I don't know.
The guy who played
Fire. He's a great actor as well.
He's good.
He's a good actor. I just don't know what he was doing.
I mean,
they didn't give him anything to work with.
They just gave him stupid lines. And
I didn't mention Zuko. So I mentioned that Katara just looked like devastated the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Zuko looked actively in pain in every scene.
He's angry. He's angst.
He was trying to.
He's having those.
I don't know. I didn't get anger. It seemed like he was just like he just stubbed his toe and he was trying not to like tear up.
I'm actually surprised.
The banished prince.
Because in the show he's like really angry, and then over time you see kind of more pathos from him.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, he's immediately like, "Oh, that kid's trouble."
And actually, I'm surprised you guys didn't mention his introduction into the movie in general was so just unnecessarily like he was just angry and yelling, but it felt very like out of nowhere. Like it just felt wrong. I was like, what?
He kept doing these outbursts.
Yeah, he was just.
It was somebody who was really trying to act. Like I would definitively say that guy was acting. Like he was like acting. Like I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
this isn't realistic. But I think somebody might have told him that Zuko in the show throws tantrums, and so he tried to embody what a persistent tantrum would be like.
I'm in a state of tantrum. He's like the Hulk. He's always angry.
That's hilarious.
So I guess what I'm thinking about the reveal is just that there wasn't a reveal. Like, I feel like in the show they did something where it's a fire soldier and he takes his helmet off and surprise, it's Zuko.
Yes, they did.
But in the movie, it just smash cuts to him being there. Like
because once again, this is a situation where they're doing too much in the movie because like he reveals himself And then, like, you know, there's a little bit of period of time where you know he's alive, and then he gets the white suit and he plans to go do the capture, and he stows away on the ship. Like, there's all these things, but it was just like, bro, he here.
There's too much.
He here. He got the white suit. Which
it just felt like we missed the reveal. Like there were there had been a previous scene where it's like, oh, he's alive.
Yeah, I agree because Iroh was just like talking to him like casually, like, all right, bro, you ready?
Yeah, yeah. And he said, I think they tried to like fill it in because he was like, are you sure you want to be here on this ship right now? Because that was like the first time he's been back on screen, so they had to make it seem like Iroh.
Do you want to have this conversation that in real life we would have had days beforehand right now?
Right.
Yeah. And I think they could have done the thing where he, like, Iroh walked down the steps or something, and there was like a person standing with their back to him, and he goes like, do you think you can really do this? Right? Like, he says it, but his back is to him. And then he turns around with a mask on, and he's like, I think I can. And then he pulls the mask off, and it would have been like, dun dun dun. But they just were like,
it's
nah,
Zuko.
We're good. Like,
yeah, it would have been
anything.
It would have been easy.
Yeah.
But he already had his helmet off.
Yeah.
So I think that's what, like, there was no reveal at all. It was just
like, hey, we here. But the thing is, I know the reason probably why they were lazy, because they showed him escaping the ship, right? Like, full out sprinting. So anyway, that whole, you know how it is. It was super whack, like, in general. So now so Zuko is heading in undercover, right? First of all, like, I just keep thinking about how cold that water had to be for him to swim. Like, I'm just like,
well, he's warming himself with the cheese.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, like, you have to be really confident, because I would have straight died in that water. But
Firebender or not.
So I appreciated them, the callback to the soot in the sky with the snow. That was really cool. I like that.
That was cool.
And then what happens? Like, the battle ensued. Oh!
Wait. When Zuko, he's underwater and he comes out, he like cracks through the ice. They played that scene like a horror movie.
Like, his arm busts through.
They were playing like scary music, and it's like close up shot of just hands like cracking through the ice. And I'm like, dude, what am I watching? Which reminds me that none of the music in this movie was good at all.
No,
it was all like literally background music. Like, it was just ambient.
It was all background,
music.
But except that one shot, they did not have background music. They had legit like dun dun. Dun 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 dun! I'm like, I know who it is. It's Zuko.
I guess it was supposed to be tense, like he was gonna drown.
Like he was gonna drown. Yeah. Well, what they should have done
they
should have done in that shot, right? Instead of what they did, which was show him like struggling on the bottom, then showing his hands heat up, they should have showed him struggling at the bottom, right? Then a shot of the ice from the top, and then like a light orange glow, like from the top. So you know something's happening. You don't know what he's doing. And then it's just a real quick him punch through the ice one time and then a cut away from it. Because it would just show like, oh, he's struggling. Oh, like something's happening under the water. And then boom, you know he survived. Like, all you see is his arm go through. Like, they spent too much time showing him crack through the ice. Like,
he was clawing.
Yeah. I would have, because if you just cut after the fist, that also has a weird tone. I would like to see at least his head come up and he breathes and then it cuts. Oh, you don't have to spend 10 minutes with him scrabbling.
So release the tension, because you don't really need it.
I think it's kind of like in movies when somebody's been buried under dirt and they do that and they bust their hand out. Like, it's the same effect. Like, I'm alive. Right?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't like that effect. I feel like that's at this situation was no tension at all. It seemed like
it was supposed to be tense.
To me, that'd be weird.
To be tense, right? Like, he almost died. I
didn't think did. He almost die?
That was the idea, that he was trapped under the ice and he was gonna drown if he didn't break his way through.
Once again, I thought that was the plan the whole time. There was if they wanted to do that, they should have shown him banging, like, gasping with air bubbles leaving and like shown his face or something.
I mean, once again, bad direction. I think I know what they were trying to do, but
I can't argue with that.
They failed miserably.
So back to the invasion.
Okay.
When Katara and Aang were doing their Tai Chi on the edge of that wall, I thought that was a nice scene, but it was really weird to me that they weren't moving any water around or anything. It almost seemed like it was a mistake.
They were just practicing forms. That happens in the show sometimes, I think.
Yeah, but that seems to be the issue with a lot of the actions. Like, why not just sync up some water movement with it? You know, like, it just...
Or why not just sync up at all? Did you notice that Katara was like struggling to follow Aang?
I did notice that. I felt like that was... I didn't want to roast the actress. Yeah, like she obviously never done.
But Aang or Aang, I think he was actually trained in martial arts.
Like, for sure.
Like, yes.
So that kid was fluid.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. That's one of the reasons that he was picked.
So
he was a beast.
So, okay. So now, all the stuff kind of happens. They're attacking. They decide to go to the moon spirit area, right? Because Aang or whatever, Aang, needs to like... Okay. Actually, this is us as people who know the show being aware what's happening, right? Because we know that in the show, Aang goes there because he wants to talk to the spirits, right? And he figures, hey, I can go into a meditative state and then it can force me into a spirit mode and then I can go do what I need to do, right? Mm-hmm. Protect my body.
Yeah.
The sequence of events that happens is they walk into the cave, and I think you're somewhat aware that's the goal. And this is all that's done. Aang walks in there, and they're walking in, and then Aang says, I gotta find the exact quote because it was so terrible. He just says, some great monks can meditate for 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
And then he just sits down.
The most weird delivery.
Random trivia.
Like, Shailene said, what did she say? She said something.
He's like,
I can't remember what she said.
Who what was that say? For?
She said, and you're telling me it looked like because, he was like something like that.
Like, legitimately,
it looked like he had a teleprompter just off screen, and he was just reading it line by line as it came up.
And then he forgot the rest of their line, and they're like, "We're not doing that shot again." Like just
like good enough.
So yes, so I guess the theory was let me. Why did he tell Yue that he needed to go? To
that's
the
thing. I don't know if
he needed to go to a really spiritual place.
No. It was I need to talk to the dragon again because the dragon will help me defeat the fire nation.
Oh yeah.
Super vague.
And then they go there, and then he
weird.
just says some great monks can meditate for 4 days, and then he just sits down. Yeah. He just sits down, and then he starts meditating. Like, and that's it. Like,
no plan.
They
of
don't
action.
say nothing.
Like, so are we just supposed to think he's gonna sit here for 4 days?
You don't even know. Like, you honestly don't know what he's doing. Like, he just genuinely just tells you. Like,
well, he didn't just say they can meditate for 4 days. He said, and for the air nomads, meditation is really important. Basically, he was introducing the idea that he was going to meditate in order to speak to the spirit because previously
100%.
He spoke to the spirit by
That's 100%
accident.
because we know the show. Because Shailene said, cool story, bro. That's what she said. She said, cool story, bro. Like, why are you telling me this? Like, it was just out of nowhere. Like, 100%. Like, even as a person who knew the show, I was like, what's he doing? Like, it was completely out of nowhere. And I think...
Even the characters in the movie.
Like...
Didn't know how to react. Like, Sokka and Yue just left. And then Katara started talking to him.
Yes. She and me. Yes. He's like, all right, I need to meditate. Really, he was saying like, yeah, they meditate. They draw out all their thoughts. They do this and that. And they can do it for 4 days. And as soon as he sits down and closes his eyes, Katara's like, let's talk. Let's talk about
I knew you'd return.
I wish it was all been like, will you shut up?
It was she was just so bad, man.
She was.
I think there was a similar moment in the show though where she was kind of like monologuing about how important he was, but like this is after being aware that like he literally left his body, so like none of that mattered.
She didn't expect him to hear, but here it's like, hey, I know you're trying to study, but can I talk to you?
It's like, hey, I need to really focus real quick and finish my homework.
I know you.
And it's like, okay.
I know you got headphones on.
And then like,
Can I call?
Like, yeah, you just sitting there like, hey, I really need to study. Like, I have a really important test. I need to be super focused. Okay. And then 5 seconds, like, have you seen the Lego movie? Like, are you serious? Like, are you serious right now? Like,
did you know there's a Lego Spider-Man movie? OMG.
It's really important.
Oh, man. So that whole series of sequence happened. Okay. They're fighting.
They skipped Ko. They completely skipped Ko.
Skip what?
So in the show, he was looking. The reason they went there was he was looking for the moon and the ocean spirits.
Yes.
So it's a similar idea. I need their help, but it wasn't like vague and weird. So he gets to the spirit world. And Roku tells him, talk to the spirit named Ko. Ko is the only one who's old enough to remember where the moon and spirits are in the real world. Yes. And Ko is the face stealer. So he goes and talks to Ko.
Yeah.
And Ko tells him, and then he escapes and comes back. But by then, Zuko has kidnapped him. Kidnapped his body.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations where it's like, they didn't even try. They're just like, just go there. Yeah. And then I don't even know what Roku said to him. Like, it seemed like he didn't say anything. He's just like...
He kind of berated him. He was saying, you're holding on to your emotions. You're not grieving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he said something super vague and dumb. Kiesha and I were laughing. He's like, show them the power of the ocean. Like,
yes.
What? That's not advice.
He even whispered it.
Show them the power.
He whispered.
Yeah.
He's like, what'd you say? Wait, what? And then wakes up.
My connection is going bad, but show them the power.
So Zuko steals him. The fighting's happening. Like, they have an epic cool battle, which I think was a cool fight, like the grabbing fight, which is actually like very martial arts movies. There's a lot of movies where it's like you grab their shirt and then they break your grip, and then they grab you again and boop, and it's just a whole bunch of that. So I thought that was really well done. It was a cool scene, once again, written by somebody else. And then we have the battle going on, and then Zhao shows up, right? And Zhao's already told what's his name, his plan, right? Like, I'm gonna kill.
Yeah, he told Iroh his plan.
Yeah, he told him beforehand. He said
he told him like right beforehand.
Yeah, and then they get there, and then like Iroh's like, "Hey man, you shouldn't do this." Da 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 da. And this is the scene that I didn't get it yet. I still hadn't clicked with me that they couldn't do fire, because I was excited about the scene where Zhao punches the fish, and like, which was like a super epic moment. Everything goes gray. Like, that was one of my favorite movies in the show, because it was like, really.
That's actually not what happened in the show.
What?
That's not what happened in the show.
What didn't happen in the show?
So in the show, he didn't punch the fish. So
yeah, he did.
Okay. Sorry. Please continue what you're saying. I'll bring it up.
Yeah, he like took it out the water, then boom, and he punches it, right? And then he like puts it back in the water or whatever. But then like everything goes gray, and like it was just a really cool moment. And at that moment, I was expecting him to do fire, because we hadn't seen General Zhao do anything yet. Honestly, we hadn't even seen him fight. And he just stabs the fish, and I was completely thrown off. I was like, wait, what? Why he just stabbed the fish? But now it makes sense, because he can't generate fire.
He couldn't do fire.
There was no fire there,
And that's why when what's his name did the whole fire hands, it was that much more gangster,
But here's the thing: he did fire hands, and then he didn't do anything else. Like, everyone just ran,
and it did.
He like basically showed off, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta go."
Yeah, like, it didn't make sense to me why they would run, but it makes sense because they can't fight him because he has fire.
I guess, but he didn't. So in the show, this is the difference. In the show, he picks up the fish, puts it in the bag, and Iroh shows up. He wasn't there. He didn't come with him, but he shows up, and he threatens
him. If you do this,
he's like, you can't do this. Anything you do that spirit, I will do to you 20 times over.
Right.
Which super gangster line.
So he threatens him, and Zhao's like, all right. And he puts it back, and everyone relaxes. And then out of nowhere, Zhao does a fire blast on the fish. So it's in the pool, and he kills it in the pool after he put it back.
Yeah.
And then Iroh just went ham.
And then exactly, Iroh immediately is like, all right, I told you. And he starts whooping on everybody.
Everybody got it.
Yes. That's what I'm telling you. That whole scene was one of my favorite scenes. It was just so gangster.
It was so cool. And Kiesh and I were like, wait, but if Iroh is so into the spirits and stuff, like, why did he just let Zhao do this?
He barely reacted.
He didn't in the show. He didn't let him do anything.
Yeah, right. I think what they were trying to give off is that, like, Iroh didn't think he was going to do it. He just thought he was, like, bluffing. Like, you're not going to actually kill the fish. Like, you know.
I guess.
Like, but then even after he did it, it was still like, Iroh didn't do anything.
He was super angry and made fire, but then he let everyone run away.
I'll show you my anger.
Also, really weird detail that they changed in the show. Zhao had come across a library, an underground library, and found the secrets of the spirits in a scroll. And he knew, and this was like way back in his career. In the movie, he had just found this library and found the scroll like earlier that year. They mentioned it twice, earlier this year. And then they deciphered it, and then eventually it was like everyone knew, or I guess everyone in his division, whoever did the research, knew where the spirits were. And I'm like, why did you change that? Because in the show, it kind of makes it feel like this man believed that killing the moon spirit and his spirit and was his destiny.
Right, over time.
That he joined the military with this in mind to eventually do this for the Fire Nation. And it kind of made his character
impulsive.
More plausible to me. But this was just a guy who learns where the spirits are. And it was even better when he like hesitated. Like, you know, Iroh says, I'll do whatever you do to the spirit, I'll do you 20 times over. And he puts it back. And he's like, all right, maybe it's not my destiny. Or maybe it is.
And I think, once again, this is kind of one of the situations where if you really had a long-term plan, which we're going to get to the end here pretty soon, right, of the movie and clearly what they're trying to do. Like, there's the whole idea of when they all visit the library. The great library, right? Mm-hmm. And he mentions the owl or whatever, the keeper, like, hey, somebody came here a long time ago and like he did me wrong. Like that was him talking about Zhao. But like for them, 100% in their mind, they're like, we're not even gonna go that storyline. We're just gonna ignore it. Like, which is a huge part of the show, like, because they need to find this information about, you know,
about the comet and the
comet and all this stuff, and how do we defeat it. So I don't know if they had a plan, because like shifting stuff like that is pretty serious, you know.
And they gained nothing. They could have just said, you know, they could have had just a truncated version of the story and probably had just as much
or
time.
Just have said, I learned long ago. like
right, you know, I give a timeline.
That would have been a cop out, but it would have.
I learned long ago, and now I finally have the opportunity to see if it's true. Because the truth is, he might have known where it was, but at the end of the day, I think we both just saw what Soy wrote in the chat at the same time. How do you pronounce that?
Deus
Ex
information.
Deus information. You got to bring
really
it.
Good.
You know, hey, God is in machines.
Thanks.
So yeah, like they could have done that so many different ways, even if it was lazy. You know, so it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I mean, it was the last Airbender movie. So that happens. They flee. Yue re-explains that she is touched.
Connected to
She's
the
been
moon spirit.
touched by the moon spirit, and I think she says, let me find the line. She says, man, she says this line that is just so bad. Like, come on. Like, she just says,
I wrote it down.
I'm scared. Don't make me any more scared.
I forgot about that. That's not even the line I was thinking of.
She said something like, or Sokka asked, like, what'll happen to you then? And she's like, my soul will not exist in this form.
And she also,
and she said, and then he challenged her, like, you don't have to do this. And she basically was like, we can't let the Fire Nation believe in their beliefs more than we do. I believe in my beliefs, or something like that.
Everything she said was terrible. She's like, it gave me life. maybe I can give it back. like there's just
I think that might be
like
from the show.
There's so many like lines that just delivered so terribly. Like you can't all of a sudden try your best to make this moment feel like something when it's just all been like just stitched together, and like it was just terrible. Yeah. Like that whole scene.
Like imagine she says all this stuff and then she's just flopping around in the pool, and nothing's happening.
Charlene had me dying. So she lays in the pool, right? And then like her essence goes into the fish, and she goes, "So who's gonna fish her body out that pool?"
Well, in the show, Iroh goes in.
Yeah, he does that in the movie as well. But I just imagine because they don't care in the movie, like somebody just has a stick and they just are like pushing her over to the edge, like just I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch that. That's nasty.
That's horrible. Just leave her.
So the way that they handled the spirits removed what is hands down my favorite part of book one, and it's when Aang merges with the ocean spirit.
I know.
And it's part of what you were describing earlier, Brad. So the moon, he picks the moon up in the bag, it goes red, and all bending stops. And then he puts it back in and he kills the fish and the moon goes black. Yes. Mm-hmm. And like everything is black and white, everything is dark. And someone said, or Yue says, it's over. And Aang in his avatar voice is like, no, it's not. He gets in the water and the fish starts swimming around him and he basically turns into this giant like water kaiju.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just this moment, like the music and the darkness. The only color is I think him in the water is glowing blue. The fire soldiers are glowing
shooting
red.
Their stuff.
And I think Yue's eyes are blue.
It's a beautiful moment.
That's it. It's beautiful. So and the music, and it's this moment of vengeance.
Yeah.
And he goes into the city and everyone stops fighting and all the waterbenders see it and they bow to it because they're like, oh, it's the ocean spirit. It's basically their god. Mm-hmm. And then the fire soldiers attack it and he's like, okay. And he just blows them away. And then he goes outside and he just blows all the ships away pretty much. Or he takes two ships and just yeets them.
That I want to stop you right there. That is 100% my favorite. When he yeets that ship into oblivion, he just hits it and it goes, whoop.
like he just walks up to it and it's like when you're in the pool with your little brother and you push him, but your little brother just zooms away.
I was like, into everybody died. Like nothing but like whiplash,
just jelly inside the ship. It's just jelly.
Just to see it like disappear to the distance, I was like, bro, like that is my favorite scene. I mean, he does the whole wave thing, right? Because he does the wave and like
he's making these huge waves
them all back, like.
Mm-hmm. And you're like, this is vengeance. This is like biblical, like what's happening right now. And then meanwhile, Yue does her thing and the moon comes back out and it looks up and it sees the moon and it kind of just dissolves and puts him back onto the brink. And I'm like, what a beautiful and intense moment showing like the spirits. And none of that.
I gotta go back and watch Avatar because I love that whole sequence of events.
Yes, you do.
It's so like one of the best. There's another scene with the dragons. I love that scene. Like Avatar was just so well done. And
I have goosebumps. My voice is like I'm about to cry.
I hear it.
It's so well done.
And instead, what we got is Aang just making a big old wave. Everybody. And everyone dips out.
Taking forever to make a big wave.
He's just like...
Yeah, that junk took like 5 minutes.
He basically did a Goku getting a spirit bomb. Like, I need all the energy, so like give me like 10 minutes. Like, I'm sorry, 10 minutes. 10 hours. Like, he's just...
There you go.
Charging up the water. What I thought was interesting about that whole moment, and I'm interested, Kyle, how you felt about this whole moment as well, because of, what it was. Like, when he does all of that, right? Everybody stops fighting because they're like, whoa, this is super gangster, right? And the Fire Nation ships are like all sitting there and they notice like, oh, so this whole wave is just going to murder us. So we need to leave. Fair. Let's go. It's not worth it anymore. Then there's the Fire Nation soldiers who got trapped inside the city.
Still trapped.
Like they run and they're like, and I was wondering what was going to happen to them because I was like, yo, they're stuck in that city and they people gone. right? So he does that. Yeah. He loses his state. And like right after that, they essentially bow to him like, you are, we're like, the like, Avatar. And you know what? I'm not even mad at that scene because the reason that like it's actually not bad narratively how they did this. It's actually very good. They tied it back to his first moment, right? When he ran away, when he was chosen to be the
he didn't want to bow.
Or he didn't
the Avatar. When he was supposed to be the Avatar, right? And he ran. So now we're paralleling that moment, right? And he has to make a decision what he's going to do. And I was like, oh, this is actually like beautifully well done. This parallel moment. They're bringing it all together. Everybody's bowing for all the nations. Katara and Sokka are bowing. And then he does the stupidest little bow I've ever seen in my life.
It was he held it too long.
He held it too long.
It was, I think it was stupid looking, but I think it was some sort of traditional.
I know. Like, it just, to me, it killed the moment because I was actually like, oh, this is really cool. And I thought I just thought like the best way to do it was for him to just stand up, look amongst everybody, and then like just accept it. But instead he's like, I must do what the ancients taught me. The ultimate bow. And it just really, like, I get what they were going for, but for some reason, the tradition, it just really, I don't know. It took me out of the moment. I thought that was going to be, I was like, okay, I see y'all. Last Airbender. Oh, okay. Y'all going.
Yeah, I didn't mind it too much. I thought it was cool that they brought it back to him. Sorry, you were asking Kyle.
No, I was just saying I'd like to hear how Kyle felt about this moment because like we shared how we felt like this is one of the coolest moments, but like I'd like to hear his.
What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, just him being on top of the wall and doing the dance moves dance moves. Out there popping and locking and people not even fighting.
Breaking people's ankles.
But I'm not gonna lie, man. That was the initial thing I thought too. Was what are these Fire Nation soldiers gonna do? But one thing during the wave that really like I lost respect for it because I was like, okay, the wave's big now and everybody's scared. I can see that. But then they did the Free Willy thing with the guy on the ship. And the wave like hung over him, and he had his hands up. And I was like,
and he did it so badly. Like he sees it, and then he puts his hands up, like, "Oh no, I'm going to get hit with water." Like it was so bad. I forgot about that. Oh.
I was like, you didn't have to do that. And it was little moments like that. They just kept ripping me out of the movie.
Yes.
So what little respect I had, just every time got stripped away.
Because they honestly could have left the guy just looking like in awe. But, yeah.
Regularly, yeah. Because right before that, the wave was like breaking the chains and the dudes were still trying to run in and some of them were falling into the water. So like Sorum said, so many implied deaths, you didn't see anybody die, but those guys obviously died.
Yeah, definitely froze to death if not drowned.
Yes, true.
But I want to mention, so Zhao's death happened right before this too.
Oh, yes.
That's also different from the show.
What a traumatic way to die.
It was pretty horrible.
Like, he got jumped by 4 of the most gangster waterbenders.
Teamwork.
And, like, he threw a fireball, and the one in the middle was like, nope,
no, sir.
Just weave.
We good.
Wait, did he?
He dodged it.
Where did he get fire from?
There was fire on the bridge. Like, there was a little fire.
Yeah, there was a torch.
That's so annoying. Didn't they specifically say put out as many fires as you can? Why are
it was on the bridge that nobody was on. Like, it was just...
But it's whatever. Fine. All right. So the guy dodges the fireball. It was very gangster.
Yeah. And so then, it was hard to tell, I guess, what was going to happen. But they just all like banded together, got these water tentacles, grabbed this dude. And then this was another parallel. They put him in a water orb like Katara made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then, because earlier when Zuko got burned, they cut away. They showed this dude die.
Slowly drowning to death.
He drowned to death in midair, like circling around in water, and then they just dropped him on the bridge and walked off.
Like his corpse, and it just walked away.
They really did just walk off. Like,
I noticed interesting because, I mean, y'all caught this when like he did the little fire thing, and then Iroh broke the fire, and he was like, the difference is like, I'm not alone or whatever. He's like, you're alone or something like that. And then the 4 people rolled up on him. you know, and then so I was like, okay, cool, like they tried. I mean, but that was a vicious death. I forgot about that.
It's pretty insane death. So in the show, Iroh does not stop Zuko from fighting. They fight a little bit, and then I forget exactly what happens, but they fight a little bit, and then the ocean spirit on the way back from the ocean. That's what it was. It passes by the bridge, and basically the same thing. These 4 water tentacles come up and just grabs Zhao. And there's a moment where Zhao and Zuko are reaching. Like Zuko's like, oh, I gotta save him. Like he's about to drown. And so even though they're mortal enemies, Zuko wants to save him. And Zhao sees his face and sees like the sadness, and he pulls his own hand back and lets himself be killed and gets dragged underwater. Yeah. So he also drowns, but it's death by water. And it's spirit.
Off screen, like you just see him get pulled under.
It's off screen.
It's implied death, right?
But it feels more like poignant, I guess, because he was like, I did this. This is what I've reaped. You know,
right? He made a choice.
I did this to myself. Like he made a choice to let himself be killed.
But even you just made a point that I forgot. Like there's a moment after Aang and Zuko are fighting, and then like. Aang, oh my gosh, they're fighting and Aang is fleeing and he turns back, like he like stops, like he like kind of, I can't remember how he beats Zuko, but he turns back and he goes, we could have been friends, right? And then runs away. And if you remember back in the actual show, when like Zuko kidnaps Aang and Aang is like tied up, they're having a conversation and they're like, like they're getting to know each other, and they like kind of realize like they actually like in another lifetime, like they would actually have been friends. Like, and you kind of see like, oh, you start to see Zuko's like heart a little bit, you know, you see his motivation and that's why that moment felt even more poignant, because you see like Zuko starting to like realize things. Cause like even that hand reaching out is kind of the moment of like Zuko's changing a little bit. And eventually we get the payoff later down the series as he fights with his old self and his new self and his old self. And he's kind of back and forth, but you're starting to see this kind of new Zuko appearing. But here they're just like,
Nuko, if you will.
Would you say Nuko?
Nuko.
You know? Oh, okay. Can we talk about it? I'm cutting back a little bit. When Zuko has him like, captured, and he's like, hey, we're going to wait it out, right? Yeah. Like, Aang comes out of his state, right? And it's so hilarious. He comes out of his state and like, Zuko's monologuing about his mom or whatever he's talking about. His sister. Yeah. And like Aang's just looking at him for a minute, and then all of a sudden he just does this like jump. It is so hilarious.
His hard dips.
He just goes whoop. He's like straight up, and he's like whoop. Like me and Charlene busted out laughing.
It was so sudden.
It was like he just stared at him for a minute, like and he's like, scoop.
And it was right after Zuko said something super dramatic and heavy. So the comedic timing was perfect.
It was perfect. That's actually almost beat for beat from the movie, from the show too. In the show, he has Aang tied up in a cave in the middle of the tundra because they got snowed in, and he wakes up. His soul comes back to his body, and Zuko is monologuing about his sister, and he recognizes, like, they see that he's awake, and they chat a little bit, and Aang basically just does like a smart one-liner and then blows himself out of the cave. But then it doesn't work because he's still tied up, and Zuko just walks out.
Yeah.
So that was a fun way to. I mean, given the circumstances, I think that's pretty close.
Like the way they did in the show felt a lot more like not weird and like just unintentionally hilarious.
Zuko,
I thought it was hilarious.
Zuko was talking, looking out the window. Aang woke up, didn't say anything,
just stared at him.
Didn't acknowledge him. Zuko didn't turn around and see he was awake. Yeah, he just stared at the back of his head.
He just stared at his head like,
like he was plotting, and then just sprang into action.
That's 100% what I would have done.
I was like, why not Aang just slowly creep away? Like, he just did the most, like, alert somebody to his attention action he could do. It was great. It was great.
You just made me think of something else about that fight that pulled me out of it, because I was with you guys when you were saying like the old kung fu movie style thing of like grabbing each other's shirts and trying to get away, that, you know, push and pull.
Yeah.
And then Aang got away. Zuko was looking for him. He was hiding behind the container.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and he hides behind Zuko.
Yes.
And he's playing.
That's what got me. He was standing behind
that
Zuko.
Was stupid.
And Zuko, the actor, I guess, turned too far
and clearly saw him.
Clearly saw his.
It was obvious you could see him.
His whole leg. That's what.
And I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, man. It was just, they only did like one take of everything, so it's just like
I had to.
Like, this is all the film we got. Like, so we get to the end. Aang has like saved the people, and in a cool moment, they all bow to him. He does that awkward like bow thing, and then it cuts to the Fire Nation.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's Fire Lord Azai or whatever. Ozai. They probably called him Azai. Ozai.
Asa.
Uzai.
Just talking out the window or something. Oh, I can't believe blah 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 blah. Zai was dead. And he's like, well, I think, you know, and then it turns, and then I don't know how you felt about the scene, y'all, but he turns and says, I guess I need to send you or whatever, right? Like, oh, cool. They're planning for another movie. But like when they showed, what's her name? Azula, the girl, the actor, who I've seen in other stuff, like as an adult, like act, she was doing such a bad job of doing the devious face. Like, she couldn't keep it. Like,
she was trying to hold it. She was quivering.
It was like quivering hard. And like changing.
She was quivering.
I was like, bro, if this doesn't get the movie canceled, like that right there, I was like, cancel this. We done. We not getting a second movie. Like,
Key and I were laughing. We were like, oh, she thinks she's gonna be in a sequel. That's
she
so
thinks
cute.
she got a job. Oh no, you know,
no.
She ended up getting another job. But man,
it was rough.
Yeah. So okay, you finished the movie. How are you feeling? How are y'all feeling when the credits started to roll?
I was still thinking about, so I didn't get to mention this earlier, but are those Fire Nation soldiers, are they prisoners of war, or are they just part of the Northern Water Tribe now?
They're definitely prisoners,
they
prisoners of war.
I mean, they bowed and it's all hunky-dory in this moment, but...
Right. Because they were standing next to everyone, you know, like nothing ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. They weren't being restrained or anything.
It was like half and half, like half, like, you know, water people, half fire people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, oh, well, they can't summon fire, so there's probably no threat. But apparently there's just fires everywhere. So
they just start fighting again.
It's immediately attacking.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that was just one of those things that they're just going to never talk about. They're just going to pretend like didn't happen. Like,
and the line, I guess, when they were bowing, the Katara's line, they want you to be their avatar.
I forgot.
We all do. Like, it was a choice. Like, the avatar is born. Like, this isn't.
Yeah, this isn't an elected position.
I also think just that line in general, like, I think in a movie that wasn't trash, like, that would have been like a meaningful statement. But for some reason, like, her saying that just made me like kind of shake my head, like, shut up, Katara. like, stop talking. Like,
you always gotta say something.
You just need to shut up. Like, cause what really killed me is there's a moment early in the movie where she's like, Aang, you're the avatar. And as the avatar, it doesn't matter if you're Aang or not. And I was like, bro, please stop talking. Like, you're
like
butchering this so hard. And I just couldn't. It's like, so hearing her say it, like, for some reason when Katara says it, it feels more grating than a lot of the other characters. You know, like.
I'm telling you,
it sounds insincere when she says stuff.
Like, everything they want you to be their avatar. It's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be like meaningful and touching, but like,
this hurts.
So yeah. I mean, when the movie ended, me honestly, I was like, yo, I I remember watching this in the past, but I don't know why this feels worse this time.
Like, we tried to warn you
because you're more mature.
Maybe I'm more mature.
Because you realize what bad movies look like.
I think it was because like I watched it with Shilene. When I watched it the first time, I was at my brother's apartment, and he fell asleep in the movie, and I was just kind of watching it by myself, and just kind of like, oh, this is a thing. But I think experience with another person, it felt a lot worse. Like for some reason, like, man, I'm sorry I did this to you, but I feel like it was a good moment for our marriage. We're more bonded now, because now we have a mutual dislike for that movie.
It's horrible.
Well,
yeah. There's just so on the other side of it, because I went into it hoping to be proved wrong in some aspect. Like, I wanted to come out on the other side looking for redeemable qualities, because I've always talked bad about this movie, especially after watching the series. And I'm holding to what I've said all along. This movie is terrible.
Yeah.
And it made me feel terrible. And I don't appreciate you making me watch it again. And neither does Mrs. Yams.
I appreciate it.
I was excited to watch that last episode of Book One and on Netflix after the movie ended. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I do want to go back and watch the series again.
And I was going to say the one last feeling I had, now that you say that, Steve, was it really gave me a deep appreciation for what the Avatar: The Last Airbender really was. And I feel that I got to go back and rewatch it, in its entirety. Such a great show. And I think triumphs of greatness like Avatar: The Last Airbender really, like, it really, like, seeing this movie helps me to realize that, like, it's I don't know how to explain this. Like, some things need to be left alone and just never touched. Like, leave them as they are and let us appreciate them. Like, we don't need a movie. We don't need a video game. We don't need a graphic novel.
A remake or anything.
Like, just leave it as it is, because it was great in its time. And it makes me more appreciative for what it was able to do, given, like we were talking about in that other episode, like, they didn't have an opportunity to prove themselves. They had to prove it in real time. Like, animes have mangas and da-da-da-da-da. Like, this show stood out in spite of all that. So
it makes me appreciate Legend of Korra. I don't typically like it that much, but I'm like, man, at least it's not the live action.
So much better than the movie. Not nearly as good as the original, but
I enjoyed The Legend of Korra. I thought it was different. It wasn't as good, but I enjoyed it. I liked some of the
They were
stuff.
faithful.
I've only seen the first season.
I enjoyed what they did with it and where they were going with it. It's just a different take.
It's very different.
Very different. And I actually really, if you haven't seen the second season, I don't remember when they go back and they look at the history of the Avatar. Oh my gosh.
Super interesting.
The Avatar. I said the Avatar. It's the Avatar. That was,
you said it the right way.
Yeah, the history of the Avatar is one of the, I think that makes the Korra just, took it to the next level. Like,
yeah, make sure you watch Legend of Karen to get the history of the Avatar.
Why are you in my lawn? But anyway, so, okay, cool. Well, thank you everybody for bearing with this. And I want to thank the brothers themselves for watching this movie with their significant others all the way to the end, talking through this whole thing. I don't regret doing this. I only regret that it happened. Like, I don't regret watching the train wreck. I regret that the train wreck happened. You know what I'm saying?
I regret M. Night doing this. I regret on behalf of the director.
On behalf of the director. So, yeah, thank you everybody for listening to this episode. Guys, do you guys have anything, last things to say before we wrap up? Call it an ending to the Ong saga?
So since
I'm finished. I'm glad that we finished the ultimate Airbender.
Since this is the end of the show, it's not going to help anybody, but listen to this rather than watch the movie.
Yes, I'll just splice that into the beginning. But yeah, no, I mean, I just appreciate that I got to do with you guys, because I don't think I would ever watch it again, you know. So it was fun talking about it. You know, I think anybody who's hearing this and has never watched the Avatar, stop what you're doing and just do it. It is worth every minute of your time. Is the cartoon. Avatar. Oh my goodness. Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Avatar.
With Aang, Sokka, and Katara, and Iroh. Great show.
You said
Oh
Sokka
my
wrong.
goodness, Sokka!
Oh, no.
It's Sokka.
Crossover.
You know, crossover, yes. So, you know, thank you to everybody who listened to Live, to Soy, to I think I saw Jules in there.
Yandev was in here.
Yandev, to Soy, to everybody who listened live, we really appreciate it. To everybody in the Discord, everybody who's a fan of our show, we appreciate it. We're trying to come hard, trying to go big, and sometimes we got to take a step back, aka The Last Airbender, to make a step forward, aka God of War deep dive coming soon. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Kyle, for your time.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Steve, for your time. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, just thank you everybody for listening. As always, follow us on Twitter at the SAB Podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. We everywhere in these streets. So thank you once again for listening. And until next time, y'all take it easy. Peace.